Welcome to the Blue Lake City Council meeting. Today is August 11th, 2026. We are coming out of closed session. While not a reportable action under the Brown Act, the council wishes to announce that it has provided general direction to staff and the ad hoc committee to engage with Danco regarding a revised project proposal with the intention to bring a mutually agreeable proposal to a later public meeting for public review. Thank you. We're done reporting out of closed session. We didn't have anyone comment on closed session items as there was no public here. Does anyone wish at this time to comment on the closed session items? Yes, go ahead.
Hopefully we won't make the same mistake we appear to have made that time in having an agreement that wasn't really what it should have been. I mean, normally most agreements have a legal termination process, how things would go. And apparently that's part of the dispute. Hopefully we won't engage in, my understanding is it wasn't our attorney who drafted this, it was an outside firm that drafted this. And then our attorney reviewed it. And at that time, I really feel that the long-term planning and things should be reflected. Hopefully we'll at least learn from this situation and we'll see what comes of your process. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Any other public comment on the closed session items? Seeing none. Okay. What closed session item?
I think so. Is this about the water?
It was not.
Okay.
Well, I mean, you can comment on the, yeah, actually, sorry, you can comment on it now, yes. It was a closed session item, I apologize, go ahead.
Well, you know what? Actually, okay, Barbara Russell, I imagine Blue Lake's not a whole lot of water, and maybe we could just develop our own somehow. And minus that whole situation. Be fun to look into.
Thank you. Any other public comment on closed session items? All right. So previously, we've already called the meeting to order and stood the flag salute. If no one's opposed, we'll move forward. Is anyone opposed to moving forward? Great. All right, we'll go ahead and open up for public comment. Now is the time to come forward to talk about anything that is not on the agenda. Yes.
You need to approve the agenda.
Oh, thank you. We entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Motion made. Go ahead.
Second.
Motion made by Scafani, seconded by Luis Lusso. All those in favor of approving the agenda, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none. We have an agenda. Moving on to item number 6. Sorry, 7. 8. Thank you. The public's invited. Sorry, the 2 pages is throwing me off here. Public comment. The public's invited to present petitions, make announcements, or provide other information to the city council that is relevant to the scope of authority of the city of Blue Lake that is not on the agenda. Would anyone like to come forward and speak? Yes, go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Allison Talbot. I'm your local government relations representative for PG&E. Live in Eureka, but I cover Humboldt and Mendocino and a little bit of Trinity counties. I've been doing this job for a long time, and I made a big mistake tonight. I left my notes at home. I hope that you will allow me to look at my phone as I make my comment, or at least not hold it against me too hard that I'm not looking at you instead. Today is August 11th, 8/11, and that is National Safe Digging Day. I hope you don't mind me coming to your council, but it feels like a good opportunity to remind you and your constituents that most every day somewhere in Northern and Central California, an underground utility line is damaged due to digging. Each of these incidents pose a public safety risk that requires a 911 response and generally result in repair bills averaging about $3,500 for the resident or business. To help prevent these incidents and raise awareness of the importance of calling 811 before any digging project, as I mentioned, today is National 811 Day. By making a fast and free call to 811, utility professionals will come to your home or job site and mark the location of underground lines so you can dig safely and avoid expensive repairs. When you know what's below, before you start any size digging project, whether you're planting, landscaping, or fencing, call 811 2 days before you dig. We call 811, so you don't have to call 911. And this is the last one, so almost done. When a call is placed to 811 and a request is made to have lines located and marked, a professional locator will come to mark the location of underground utility lines, including gas, electric, water, telecom, and sewer, free of charge. Knowing where underground lines are buried while you're digging and then following safe digging practices will help keep you and your family and our entire community safe and connected to essential utility services. Thank you again for letting me use your platform to share this safety message.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Very good.
Appreciate you. Anyone else?
Don't leave. I just wanted to say that, Steve Drone, County Supervisor, I just wanted to say that Allison Talbot is one of the most amazing people that I have worked with in my 8 years on the Board of Supervisors. If I have an issue with PG&E, I call Allison. Allison gets it done. She is an amazing asset. We all owe her a great deal of thanks for being that liaison for us with PG&E. So thank you, Allison.
Anyone else wish to make a public comment?
Yes, Allison is fantastic. She's been helping out with the county. She does her reports there with the county for many, many years. I have concerns, especially with a lot of the litigation that's going on in this world. I think Supervisor Madrone's closed session today included, if I recall, 12 different closed session items. The majority of them were major litigation, which they're working on. We don't want to be in the same position as the county. They initiated one lawsuit, and they, I believe, and then they had a bunch of other ones to work on. I brought up some things that are questions, and frequently what happens, I feel the citizens of Blue Lake deserve some answers to these questions. And when I submit questions to the county, like John Florida Building, the CAO, or any of these other departments, they don't just get ignored. The email gets returned to me with the information to answer the questions afterwards. And when we're looking at a potential budget busting situation, an amount of a litigation that is in excess of a whole year's worth of our budget, I think we really need to pay attention. And you're in other litigation, I understand there's other ones in the queue. It was a little bit disconcerting. Time is always of the essence when you have a negotiation on these things. The sooner you get down and you sit down and work something out, the less expensive it's going to be. In other words, if you go to trial and you've got depositions and all the court costs and everything involved, it's very easy to run up $200,000 or $300,000 worth of expenses on a topic. And again, Supervisor Madrone's had in closed session where those kinds of things happen. So I really hope you look at this list, and I think that the city people here, the citizens are entitled to answers. A lot of times things happen in a closed session. There's nothing in here, I don't think, that violates closed session, or at least a majority of these questions could be answered in a forum or a manner. And I would request that they be answered by your staff and be made available in the next city council packet. So I'm gonna kind of leave it at that. I did wish to make a comment that there was a person who spoke up here during the last meeting, and that was, I believe, Aaron McClure's niece. I talked to her outside. She made comments. She didn't have a lawyer. She didn't know what she was talking about. And apparently she's doesn't even have any kind of a McClure blood in her, but she came in here and made some misstatements regarding what's going on with their trust. So hopefully this will all work out. I'd like to see a solution that could cost the city way less than what they're spending. And for these reasons and other ones I put up there before to you regarding eminent domain and things, and I could republish that again, I think we're best to finish up what we started and just get that one done. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
So you guys know this.
So that's what you guys do. So.
Yeah, like that was the.
Last call for public comment? Yes, go ahead, Barbara.
Barbara from Arts and Heritage Commission. And as you guys know, I think that the power plant site is a great asset. And so I'm going to bring it up at our next, I'm going to put on our agenda for the next meeting to see if we can get a tour of it and with different members of the community. I've spoken with somebody from the sheriff's department and they'd be happy to go with us to check safety. We want to assess current conditions for reuse. And I'm very excited about possibilities there. There's a lot of ideas. So anyway, I just want to let you guys know that we're going to see if it's something that the Arts and Heritage Commission would support, and then we're going to try for a date. Okay?
Great, thank you. Last call for public comment. Seeing none. Moving on to item number 9, consent agenda. Does anyone wish to have anything pulled from the consent agenda? Seeing none, is there any public comment on consent agenda items? Seeing none, bringing it back for potential motion or discussion.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
We have a motion made by Bayless to pass the consent agenda. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Napier. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none. All right. Moving on to item number 10, Del Arte amended pre-festival report.
I have to recuse myself because I live with
Oh.
5 and we
The Amanda Short, will you fill us in on this item?
I will. So Del Arte came to us and provided us with the pre-festival report back in April of 2026. At that time, they thought that their Botawat Festival would be between June 19th and August 23rd. They have had some opportunities to be able to continue to have festivals and events that go out into September and October. So they've sent us a revised pre-festival report. It's kind of like a mid-festival report. Asking to extend the festival ending date from August 23rd to October 31st. And they've kind of listed out what the events are. Some of them, they will move indoors if weather does not permit, but staff supports the extension of time.
Does the council have any questions on this item?
A couple of things came up. So my understanding about this is that the CUP, the conditional use permit, there's no major changes in the original permit. And do we need any kind of notification of neighbors of that, or are we, I'm just out of curiosity.
Senator did not think so.
Okay.
He's reviewed this and he felt like this extension was fine, especially within the parameters of what they're proposing. His interpretation of major changes is more about the type and size of the event than the dates.
Gotcha.
But he did explain to them if they want to expand out into an all year type CUP, that they need to come to the city and apply for something else.
Okay.
Any other
Pretty
questions?
straightforward.
No questions? Does the public wish to comment on this item?
So I would hope sometime, I don't know if any of you have been provided a copy of the conditional use permit. Hope you do take a little time to read and understand this. Part of the problem we've had with this particular group is that this was supposed to happen before and after. And I can't remember if it was 7 or 8 years. It didn't happen. We didn't get a report at all. So we're kind of a little bit behind. I didn't know if you knew or aware, and you can ask your thing, but on a PRA request, that's what I came across. It's quite a complicated process. I'm going to have to disagree with the city planner that a change of this magnitude should actually be a change in the CUP. I don't even know if it's a legal process to go ahead and change it without bringing that before your folks as a planning commission and making a change. There are quite a few constraints in their licenses that have to have liability insurance. And one of the things I don't know has been complied with, but a question for your staff would be, there's supposed to be something that's worked out with our sheriff regarding how security is supposed to be done, all this kind of thing. So part of the CUP is a yearly or whatever situation going through the sheriff. I'm kind of concerned that a whole bunch of these things in this CUP are just being ignored. Wonderful group. I love to see their function, but I think everybody has to cross their Ts and dot their Is, especially when you have a CUP without a sunset. In other words, there isn't anything that just goes on in perpetuity. Most CUPs have a sunset, whether it's 5 years or 10 years. Reggie on the River gets reviewed every so often. Any kind of these functions where you have a CUP with the county is reviewed on a regular basis. And I think it's unfortunate that that happened, but I do not think you are on solid ground as far as granting a change to the CUP without fully understanding it and doing that through the correct process. And there's a process for this. Thank you for my opportunity to speak.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lynn Glenn. I just want to say I'm really pleased to see the city working with Del Arte and Del Arte working with the city in the process and communicating. And I believe that I trust process and I trust the city staff and Del Arte. Part of our community, we're all working together on the same thing to make Blue Lake a better place and bring more business to town, make it a more vibrant, alive place. And I really appreciate seeing this on the agenda. It looks like they're making a few changes and they're doing it the right way. And I hope that you will honor this agreement and their efforts to work together with the staff and the community.
Great, thank you. Other public comment on this item?
Yeah, I don't think so. I live next to the park here, so I'm sensitive to knowing when events are happening and, because it has an impact on me as a resident. And I was just thinking about, this is the first I heard about that extension of the festival. I just want to make sure that the residents around that neighborhood are aware of that and that they've been brought in, Cash may know something about that they've been communicated with about this, because they're used to this kind of time frame that we've had for forever for the Mad River Festival. And now they're talking about extending it. So that's just a suggestion, just because I have empathy for neighbors who want to know what's going on in their neighborhood.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Cash, are you going to speak as a public commenter or as an organization? I can give you more time if you're reporting as a. And any other public comments?
And no is also on Zoom. Okay.
Sorry, I should have had you guys come forward ahead of time. Cash, come forward and you can tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Thank you, Cash Puja, member of the board at Del Arte. I think the CUP is about scale, and the reason it really came in place is that after 30 or 28 years of the festivals and then the Humboldt Folklife coming on board and wanting to close down the street and go beyond the property, and then Del Arte requiring to go to make noise till 11 o'clock or so. Instead of coming every year and asking for a permit to do that, they decided to go to the CUP process. And then the closing of the street is still its own special permit each year for Humboldt Folklife to deal with. So what I'm trying to get at is this, we're looking at scale here. The events outdoors and indoors for Del Arte have been grandfathered in. They've been going on for 50 years on the backstage, indoor, and on the backstage outdoor for 38 years. And so these events that are extended are also under 400 people, which is traditionally what's been the number of people we've had, at Del Arte. I've checked the site plans and the floor plans with the building chief and with the fire chief, and we are allowed to have 400 people on the main property and up to 750 people with two properties, and we're not going to be anywhere near that scale. So to think that we need a CUP every time we want to use what we've been doing traditionally on our property, within the confines of what has been allowed to historically, is actually not correct. But to have the CUP is needed if we want to go beyond the property or we want to make noise, past 10 o'clock or have more people than legally allowed on the site. So I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Does the council have any questions for Cash at this time?
I think Artemis made it. No, I do.
Noah, you want to go ahead and speak a little bit on this item?
Sure. Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Great. Um, we are really grateful to be working with Jenny on this. She came to us and just to like iron out the details and to help us figure out how to work together. And I feel like we are following the correct process. We also had a great meeting with Gary. I really do feel like we are doing the proper thing, the proper ways. It's been a busy summer so far, and things are lightening up, which is great. By extending the CUP, it really helps us add a few more events legally, and that's exactly what we want to do. We haven't had a chance to notify our neighbors, but we will do that. And I actually look to the guidance because I'm new here, so I look for guidance on the best ways to do that.
Great. Any questions for Noah? Thank you, Noah.
Thank you.
All right, last call for public comment on this item. Yes, go ahead.
I'm Rebecca. I live right across the street from Del Arte. And it has been so great to hear life in that building again. And I can never remember a time that I've been bothered by the music or the plays or anything. So they always wrap it up pretty much by 10. And I'm just glad they're back. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Anyone else wish to comment? All right, bring it.
No, Artemis.
Is Artemis there?
She's unmuted, but I'm not sure.
Artemis, did you want to say anything?
Hi, y'all. I have been trying, sorry. I'm older than I look and I don't know how to use the react button. I just wanted to say that, you know, this is something that is in the interim for right now, this asking of the extension. We do plan on either applying for a new CUP or, as was suggested to us by Gary, compiling historical data to prove that we are grandfathered into these sort of activities. So just for everybody to know, if anybody that was concerned about that, those are our plans.
Thank you. Any questions for Artemis? Seeing none. Okay. Bring it back to council for consideration. Any further discussion on this item? Right. Jenny, quick question for you. So right now, they've been complying with all of your requests. Do we need to have this go before the planning commission to make an amendment to this?
Gary's determination on that is no, that under the existing conditions of the CUP, you guys acting as the planning commission have the freedom to accept a pre-festival report that has a duration that is longer than what it has been in some other years. It's not spelled out as to exactly when it does and doesn't start. October is later than it's ever been before. But, you know, I agree with, you know, some of the things that have been said. It's gone really well this summer. And so it seems like in an attempt to try to allow them to finish out their festival, giving them an extension for this summer with the idea that they're going to come back between now and next spring with either, as Artemis said, either a new CUP application or documentation to show that they've already been doing activities in those time periods at that facility. And then we'll process that through the planning commission.
Okay, great. We've already closed public comments. Sorry. Any motion or further discussion on this item?
We're just receiving a report, correct? We don't need to make a decision.
Do we need to, accept the amendment to the pre-festival report from Del Arte? I would like to make a motion.
Is that your motion?
Yeah, that was my
Okay.
motion.
I have a motion. Can you just do it one more time?
I would like to make a motion that we accept the amendment to the pre-festival report from Del Arte.
We have a motion made by Michelle Lewis-Lusso. Do we have a second?
Second.
Councilmember Napier is seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. It's been amended.
Need to go get.
There you go.
Will somebody grab?
You know, I think she's outside. Is
Cash still here?
Yeah, he's going to
Okay.
get through.
For the record, and I mean, I've made this disclosure in the past, but I want the public to know that I have done work for Cash privately, so I just want to make sure that that's known.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 11, Powers Creek Flood Preparedness and Maintenance Update.
So I wrote a fairly specific report, which I'm happy to go through. I wanted to make sure you guys had a good understanding of what the Powers Creek Restoration Project consisted of before you consider the request that I'm making to modify your previous action. So I would like to kind of, can you give me permission to share screen?
Yeah, just go and try to, okay.
Yeah, this is good part. We're getting better at the technical part. Small one.
It's an error.
Okay, so I wanted to start with kind of giving you an overview of what the proposed cross section is for the creek itself, so that you understand the magnitude of the grading that's going to go on. So you can see that all the way back here, they're going to be scraping off 1 foot of earth from the entire area that's going to get treatment, and then they're going to put.
Do you have a point of order or something?
Make that larger, please. What is that? No. What is that? Bigger. This is a cross section. This is what they look like on plan sheets. So this is what's dashed is existing ground. Did you have a question now?
I think her question, I think this is a stream bed cross section.
Yeah, for Powers Creek. It's the restoration project that's being proposed for Powers Creek. So what they want to do is the dash line is the existing ground out there. And if you were to walk down the stream, this would be a line that goes perpendicular to that. They will scrape off a foot everywhere to get rid of the native and the vegetation and things like that. And then you can see on the dark line, this is the bottom of what the grading will be. So everything between existing grade and finished grade will be removed. On the sides, there's going to be a 4-to-1 slope. When you get closer to the stream bed, there's going to be a 2-to-1 slope. And then I picked this cross section specifically because it had a course and brittle in it. And it's one of the things I want to explain to you guys as we go through these different pictures, what that means and why it's important to the question about storing soil. Okay, so do you guys have any questions about what this is?
This is our current plan or this is a new
This
plan?
is the current plan.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so let me see what happens if I close this, if it'll just let me open the next one. Okay. Is it automatic? Never simple. Need a better thing. Okay, so this is a plan sheet. So as you walk down the stream, this is what the actual stream itself would look like. And so here where you see finished grade, anything above this finished grade, water will be on. Anything below it will be gravels. And so part of what I want you to see here is you can see the depth of the excavation that's going to be being done. In some places, it's quite deep. Each one of these squares is 2 feet. So this particular section of the plans I picked because it includes both a pool for the timbers, for the large woody debris, we don't call it debris anymore. They used to.
For sure.
Yeah. And then it includes the 2 feet that's being put in for the actual stream gravels, which have a very specific gradation that's required. And then here's the coarse and briffle. And you can see that it goes from station 26 plus 75 to station 26 plus 50. So it's 50 feet long. It's whatever the width is called for at that particular cross section, and it's 3 feet deep. This is larger cobble, and it is theoretically stuff that could be processed out of the excavated materials that also should be gravels. And then you continue on up the stream and then you see these again. And they are spaced out across all 3 phases of the project. There are 12 of them all together, the coarse and brittle. Okay, so only one participant can, why is it giving me a hard time?
Therefore, what they're intended for.
Mike could probably do a better job of explaining that than I.
You want to go next, Mike, or not? You want to go after or during?
I don't mind tag teaming with you. If you want to answer questions as we go, it's probably more useful.
Go ahead, Mike.
Be clear, I had the actual like hydrogeomorphologist do the design on that, civil engineer, but the riffle, again, is part of for a fish habitat and restoration, and then some of the channels too is to capture sediment. So we actually locate where you can capture some of the sediment. So it's more, there's a couple things we're trying to achieve. One is what's called a scour velocity. You need a certain flow for the fine grain sediments, not the rocks, but the fine grain sediments. You need a scour velocity. Right now it's choked out and it's flattened. So we've lost that ability to move material through. So that was part of the design. And then the riffles and the pools are part of that. And the pools are also for rearing. So you want it for salmon and all that. Again, I'm not a fish biologist.
Be important to know because what I'm concerned about is for the rearing.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we can get some more information that's really specific to that, that would be really.
Yeah, we've had, over the years, we've had like all the people that are involved with the design doing some outreach, and we can coordinate that again.
Yeah, but we've never had a conversation.
Okay, well,
I did that.
we need to move on. Okay, so the next attachment that you were given was an overview. I wanted you to kind of understand that this is a three-phase process or project. Phase one starts down here next to Rancheria Road, where the lower section was completed by the Rancheria, 8 years ago or something? It's been a while. So they did up to the beginning of phase one. And so phase one is all this section that's green, and phase two is all this section that's red, which also includes the pedestrian bridge. And then phase three is all the section here that is blue. And you guys were asked in June of 2025 by Ottawa Watershed Council, when they were doing an application, to approve using a space on the power plant to store materials out of this while the project was going on. And the action that was taken was that we would receive the spoils from the project for storage in the industrial area for a volume not to exceed 38,000 cubic yards for a term not to exceed 4 years from the start of construction, with annual review for feasibility. And so as I've been working with the Ottawa group to talk about how are we going to go about trying to get funding for this project so we can do some of this restoration and hopefully alleviate some of the flooding, this phase one is a $6 million estimate right now. And it's far more than most of the funding agencies are able to fund in a single funding cycle. And so we've been talking about dividing this up into 2 phases, which would even extend the time frame more, because I would say at best, every phase is going to take 2 years. By the time you apply for funding, get funding, finish it, bid it, build it, that's minimum 2 years, probably more like 3. So when I started adding up the different phases and realized you'd only given them 4 years, the problem becomes they need longer than 4 years. It's going to take longer for them to take the material from phase one and then use it in phases 2 and 3 for the riffles and for the gravels that go back into the creek. And so you can see right here on the power plant property, that is the area in CEQA that was designated as the place that could receive these spoils. I'm going to zoom in here to this little computer. I want to zoom in. What is this? Oh, that'd be awesome. So this is the table that shows exactly where the quantities are coming from. And this was in attachment 1 in your packet. And one of the things I wanted to point out is that there is a section here for this 1 foot deep vegetation scrape in cubic yards. It's almost 10,000 cubic feet. And I do not recommend that you take that. I really think that you need to make the contractor take that away. I think there's little to no possibility that that's going to be usable material. The part that's being excavated below that 1 foot is the part that's most likely to be gravels. And so I don't want to set up an expectation that we're going to take a bunch of dirty, wet, native, weed-filled material and pile it up at the power plant in hopes of getting rid of it later. But I think this 28,000 cubic yards that we have set up is likely to be some pretty nice gravels, and is similar to the stuff that's being used next door for the actual processing of gravel and then selling of it. And so I am in, full agreement with taking those 28,000 cubic yards and giving the project like 8 to 10 years to process it all. With the idea that they would be able to use it in phases 2 and 3. I think we need to. Hi, are you ready? I want to make the laser bigger. Turn on the speakers this time. I'd like to give them some more time so that the cost associated with off-hauling all that gravel that could likely be used in another phase is super high. And so if we have the space to be able to store it for a few years so that it can then be processed and used in phases 2 and 3, I would like to be able to allow them to do that. I think it will make our project a lot more competitive. And I feel like it's really important in light of the fact that we have had flooding for the last 3 winters, that we do something as soon as possible. And so moving along in this funding process is high on my priority. Okay. SHN has estimated that it will cost about $2,200 to separate phase 1's plans into 2 separate sets of phases. The Ottawa Council approached me and asked whether the city would be willing to cover any part of that. They're strapped for funds, blah, blah, blah. That's up, kind of up to us as to how we feel about taking that on. They were the main people that received the grant, and they processed all of the costs for producing the plans and specifications, getting the project ready with the city as a partner, but not necessarily as a funding agency. I also had a meeting with the Ottawa Rose, who's with the Ottawa group, and the Urban Stream Restoration Program Coordinator with the Department of Water Resources last week. And part of what we were trying to find out from her was, what's the ideal project size and how do we fit into the different criteria? And so while we were talking, I was going through the maps and we were checking to see how we fit into their climate resiliency things. And we are a rural, severely disadvantaged community in their mapping software, which is a really good thing when it comes to being able to tick the boxes in a grant application. But they only set aside $15 million for all of the communities that fall into that category when they do a cycle. And so asking for $6 million of it is probably not realistic, which is part of the reason we should maybe consider allowing some of those gravels to remain on the power plant. The bad news was that she informed us she had just found out that the Prop 4 funding that would be used for this, that was supposed to be in the 26-27 budget, isn't. And unless they do some sort of a major budget change mid-year, we will not have a cycle this year to even apply for. So any questions about the actual restoration project and how it fits into the flooding problems? Because I kind of broke this out into different things that all tie together.
What can we do this year?
Okay, that's the next section. What can we do this year? Okay, so the next section is about Powers Creek flood preparedness and maintenance. And I reached out to as many of the residents as I had email addresses for to try to set up a meeting. Part of what I need from the people who live here and have experienced the flooding in the last few years is information. I'm new to this job. I don't have all the answers. I don't know exactly where you go put sandbags to make the water not run down the street so it doesn't come into somebody's house. And so I'd like to, collaboratively work with everybody that has information. We created a share drive for people to be able to place all the photos that they had there with as much information as they can provide about like when, where. And then we're going to have a meeting where we're going to sit down with a map and talk together about, as the water rises, here are the places it comes over first. And here's at my house, here's how I know that flooding is going to be a problem. When I see this happen, then I'm concerned. Because part of what we would like to do is create a team of people who are interested in putting together already filled, ready to go sandbags that are of a higher quality than the ones we've used in the past so that they won't break down in the sunlight and hopefully can stay in place for 2 to 3 years. And then go to those places and put sandbags in places we know that they're needed when it's not pouring down rain. And then come back and have pallets of them at the courtyard that are ready to go so that we know where to deploy those when the waters start rising. I don't think that there's any guarantee that even with the maintenance that I'd like to do, that we won't have some water that'll overtop the sides of the creek. But preparedness is gonna help in trying to keep it in the creek. And people not standing out in the rain trying to decide where the most important place to run to is, that we actually have a plan that we can implement as soon as it starts coming up. The other thing that has happened is, in my coordination with the Bottawa Council and the Department of Water Resources and the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, the Bottawa Council has a whole bunch of permits that are not in the city's name. And we have gotten through and gotten permission to use all of those permits to be able to do work in the stream bed itself, where the water would normally flow, during the summer and fall until water starts running in it again. And so probably the biggest thing that we can do that will make a difference is to release some funds to allow me to be able to contract with either CAL FIRE or the CCCs or somebody to go in there with hand crews and take out as much of the trees within the wetted perimeter as possible. We have to have somebody from the Bottawa Watershed Council there supervising the work. They will do all the flagging of what can and can't be cut. And then the thought is that the public works crew, as they pull, as like, let's say it's CAL FIRE, as the conservation crew pulls the stuff up onto the trail, then public works can take it off and put it at the power plant. And then we will incinerate it in the CAL FIRE incinerator we have sitting there once it's dried out some. I think if we were to take between now and when it starts raining in, mid to late October and try to coordinate with them to get some of that work done, that we likely could get a good hunk of it done. So that's kind of probably one of the things that's going to have the biggest impact on that particular area in the short term. I'm asking you to give money to do that because we don't have anything in the budget set up for that. I would like for you guys to set aside about $15,000. The CAL FIRE crew seems to cost between $250 and $500 a day, but they send like 14 guys with all of the equipment and they can do an amazing amount of work out there. So we're estimating it would take them probably 10 to 14 working days to be able to do the whole length. And part of the group that I am going to have the meeting with, we're going to talk about like, where do we think the most critical spots are? If we have a limited number of days, where do we want them to work at? So that's kind of the proposed plan for the flood preparedness and maintenance for Powers Creek itself. There are some other areas that also have flooding problems that I think maybe aren't as noticeable. Railroad Creek is one of them, and we've got a drainage ditch up behind Northfield Terrace that has problems. And Steve is here because him and I have been working together on trying to come up with a way to remove it. There's a large redwood tree whose root structure has all come down and filled in a creek. And so when debris comes down that, as soon as it fills it up, then it overtops and comes out onto the roads and up into people's backyards there on Park. And the county is willing to take the tree out and is asking the city to participate in the financial part of it. They're estimating it'll cost $9,000 and they'd like us to pay half. So that's what is in here as for your consideration. Let's see what else we have. Oh, and I also have been working with the Public Works Department at the county in dealing with the culvert that is up behind the gas station. We have a contact person at Caltrans that Nate is working with on trying to find out what they can do about the modifications that might have been made to the drainage structures on Highway 299 that I think are likely bringing more water down that cold, I don't know if it's probably an ephemeral stream or something they call it, but that drainage way definitely is seeing a lot more water than it has in the past. And when that overtops and comes down into Blue Lake Boulevard, it turns and it goes down Greenwood. And that's how it ends up in Powers Creek, is once it gets on Greenwood, that's where all of that water goes. So if you can keep it in the box culvert that comes underneath and outlets in front of the school, it doesn't end up in Powers Creek. But as soon as it comes out and over the streets, it does end up in Powers Creek eventually. So that's one of the other areas that we're working on trying to fix the problem, which I think is between the culvert and Highway 299, but also come up with a plan for where do you put the sandbags to keep the water so that it'll actually go back into the creek that's in front of the school instead of coming down the road.
So has CAL FIRE told you that they're only available for X number of days, or how does that work?
No, CAL FIRE will tell you they're available and then they'll get called to fire and then they're not. I mean, that's the reality. And that's my concern about CAL FIRE. That's why I offer the CCCs as another option. And one person had emailed me that Samara might be an affordable option. And so if you guys are interested in putting some money forward for this, I can deal with who and how and when. But before I put a bunch of effort into it, I wanted to make sure that you guys were okay with doing this because the Powers Creek Fund is negative. And you're gonna be designating just general fund reserves to be able to pay for this. That's just the reality of the city's finances right now. And so I'd like for you guys to make that action before I go out and do a bunch of investigation.
So your ask is essentially on the fiscal impact because it's not on the motion sheet.
Right.
Okay, so under the fiscal impact section, it's very detailed on what you are asking.
It is. I'd like you to set aside $20,000. The part that's related, the 4,500 that's related to taking the tree out of the drainage system for the road will come out of the streets fund. But all the rest of it will come out of the general fund and be processed through Fund 36.
Okay.
Any other questions for staff?
What is Samara?
It's the name of a company that specializes in vegetation removal and like replanting of native things, removal of noxious plants.
I imagine their rates are at a commercial rate.
I would think it's gonna be significantly more than CAL FIRE.
So we're not gonna get very far with the same number of dollars.
Not as much, but if you can't get if you cannot get CAL FIRE here between now and when Fish and Wildlife says you can't get in the creek anymore, then some is better than none.
I just hate to blow our whole
I know, I
budget on
agree.
2 days with one company when we can have 2 weeks with CAL FIRE.
And we can do with volunteers some as well, for as many people as are willing to come out and work on it. In the past, I mean, like Glenn told me a story about him just taking a piece of plywood out of the creek and a game warden came by and he got out of the truck with his gun drawn. So they were pretty serious about the creek. So the fact that we now have agreement from them that it's okay to get in the creek and remove the trees and the bushes and stuff is not minor. I mean, Public Works can work on it too, if it's our priority.
Just to confirm, when did we get the agreement
With what?
with the fish?
Oh, it was last week that they told us that it was acceptable to use the Ottawa Watersheds LSAA for our work.
Great.
LSAA means.
Yeah, so Lake and Stream Bed Alteration Agreement.
Is this something that we would have to put out an RFP for?
Not if it's CAL FIRE for sure. And if it's under 15,000 is not, I mean, that's way below the threshold for needing to even do like 3 written quotes.
Additional question?
I did have one question. So the gravel that gets removed, what is the estimated area, since we would be extending the time that it would be on that property? What would be the area?
Yeah, so originally they said what was it, 1.5 acres, 10 feet deep? They had a specific number they gave the council last time, and that was for the 38,000. I actually probably know that. Let me see.
It's approximately 10 feet.
Yeah, it's 10 feet deep, but I can't remember how many acres they said it was. It's in here. Just give me a second to read it. I was hoping I had highlighted it.
Somebody explain what we're looking at, like what city, what streets?
Sure, so where's your little pointer at? Okay. It's not really, I think it's too dark. Okay, let me
Work on the
zoom in a little bit and see if that helps. Oh, you
Laser
do?
won't work on LED screen. Throw that out.
Oh, really? So this is Hatchery Road. Can you see Hatchery Road on there? Yeah. Right here, it's up here on, there you go, yeah, and then just out to the left. This is the creek. More shows on my screen than shows up there, that's interesting.
So that's a horse arena.
Yes.
Post up.
Oh, it's way up
Way up
here.
here.
I'm not sure it's even on the map. Let's see. No, but here's the baseball field. It's underneath this table is where the post office is. Yeah, so Broderick is the one that comes off of Charton and goes down towards the Gymkhana. Right here. Yeah, and this is the pedestrian bridge right there, if you know where that is.
Right here, right?
Yeah.
This is the field, blank field. This is the Bigfoot. Where's the bird? Where's the bird? Where's the bird?
Here, I'll move it down here a little bit. You can see the brewery. There's the brewery. The brewery is kind of where it says phase 3.
This is Taylor Way. So that's the power plant. Road.
Thank you, Barbara.
They were.
Yeah, we didn't care. Yeah. The Culvers.
Any other?
Thank you. I'm still looking
No,
for that
nothing.
either way.
We have another question.
No, not the
Any public questions or comments at this time? Yes, go ahead.
A couple of things specific to what you have been discussing, and then my own, something I brought to read. Thank you, Jenny, for looking into all of this. And I just want to make note that CAL FIRE is the least expensive by far of any of those vegetation removal possibilities. CCC would be considerably more costly. So as far as when you're thinking about how much funding is going to be needed for that, depending on who's available, we are just at the beginning of really extreme fire season coming on. And even the CCC goes out for fires too. I called them last year just to inquire about helping us when we worked in the creek and realized there's no way we're going to be able to manage all of this. And, you know, they said, well, the city has to make that request, but the crews are already gone probably for the rest of the season. So it would be good to just, you know, start feeling all that out and figuring out what the options really might be. The reason why I'm asking about that is because I have concerns, and I'm hoping that we can meet with the, to talk about the viability of actually fish rearing in that section, because I've been in there a lot up until just a few weeks ago. Now it's really next to impossible to get through. I just go in there with a machete to try and work my way through the creek, but there's considerably more sediment just since the last 2 years, since you guys cut those survey lines. So I don't know what you still have here. Is that based on that, those assessments, or currently, right? So that's something to consider. Also, there were at least 8 weeks of completely dry, that whole section. So salmon rearing doesn't happen down there. It happens way upstream. They need that channel to get out to the Mad River. The big fish can sort of get their way up, but the little fish, I have found lots of pools of them dead down there, trapped in pools of sediment and between pools of sediment and debris. So they're not able to get out because, it's dry, and then they get trapped and they think they can hang out there, and then the water vaporizes and they're dead. So I wouldn't want to fool them anymore. They've already been stressed on what that channel can do for them. That's something that I'd like to know more about. In terms of the flood mitigation plan or preparedness mitigation plan, I wanted to make sure there's a list of sources of flooding of Broderick Lane properties that I've observed over the last 3 years of flooding as it relates to Powers Creek flood impacts. And they're specific to basically my property is kind of ground zero of sort of the confluence of all of the water that comes down out of the creek. I know, John, I really want to be able to answer that one.
Minute. Thank you.
The public really needs to know about this. And
Get on the agenda for next time.
Mhm.
It's been on the agenda.
This is the
You
agenda.
submit it to the council. I'm really sorry,
Yeah, all right. Well, you can have this. I'll send you letters. I'll send it to the city manager for public record. I'll put a copy out here for people if they're interested in reading. I just want people to know what's happening down here, how properties are being impacted, and that there's more than just Powers Creek. There's a whole bunch of problems that where water is pooling down on mine and my next door neighbor's property. We're basically taking the hit for the whole area. And I really, really appreciate you guys trying to come up with a plan and.
Yeah.
Yes. It sounds like the details she's working on are what Jenny said she'd like to get together in websites and all that.
What's that?
Sounds like what you have is information.
Go ahead, sir.
is what Jenny's talking about trying to pull together.
Well, I've been doing that. I just wanted the public to have an opportunity. There's something in the range.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
So, I think we're possibly, gonna miss the window of opportunity, which was just prior to us right now. Fire season is gonna break out, unfortunately. The project itself, as has been pointed out, there isn't water in there, no matter how deep you dig that, the water goes subterranean. And so you won't be doing fish any favors by having breeding things there. And I discussed this at the planning commission when they approved this particular project. You have to get up on the McClure property where there's cool water up there, and the fish in that area survive no problem. And then, of course, wash out. When the winter rains come down, they wash out and they go back to the ocean. Part of the problem, so you will understand it, it's been portrayed to me that the contractor who was working up on 299 illegally hooked up certain water for convenience into some pipes he shouldn't have, and that's why we're having a flooding problem. So hopefully Hank Seaman and the staff can get to the bottom of that particular one. And if they do, they can force Caltrans to change and remediate. And that will help our project strongly support taking the water behind the market there, taking that down. That's money and time well spent. I think that's on our city engineer's property. So anyway, those are great things. You're gonna have to prioritize because you may only have a few days. And I don't know where to suggest the best part is. I think somewhere down by the Gymkhana, people have said is a place where we need to have water so it can flow out if there's something that can be done down there. I don't think 15, 25 or 50,000 is really going to get you where you need to be, but I have no problem with you authorizing that. No problem with the material other than the spoils that were mentioned that are subpar. It should be hauled away, stored down there. Those things could always be used on that site in the future. Somebody could bring their site up higher grade, which is beneficial. The biggest problem we have on all these sites, and especially Katrina's and these things, these particular building sites were not designed by the developer to drain to the street. And so therefore, our elevation is not what it should be, and it ponds in those places. So good luck with this one. Strongly support working with the county and Supervisor Madrone to remove the tree or whatever you can do to solve that problem up there. Thank you for the opportunity.
Enoch Hill. My comments are based upon a lot of ignorance as it relates to just process and rules. So literally two kind of categories. Power Creek runs right through our backyard, and we're well above that, a few houses up from the post office. And there's a lot of like historical industrial things in the creek. And our property is one of those where we retain water throughout the year and then it disappears. And I'm just curious if there's a phase 4. If there is. Secondly, is the question the comment you made about police getting involved, pulling plywood out of the creek. So I'm just curious because my children has routinely every year, me with them, like walk the creek from our house down, picking up trash. And there's also a lot of debris otherwise that we pull out of the creek. And the last thing I want is my child to be confronted with a police encounter by virtue of pulling non-native trash out of it.
No, I was really shocked.
Thank you. Anyway.
My name is Lynn Glenn. I live directly on the creek near the Gymkhana field. I've lived there for about over 13 years. And for the last 3 years, we've had flooding on our property every year. Almost half our property is covered with floodwaters. Thank you, Jenny. This is a wonderful, practical plan. All the things you were doing could have been done before, but weren't for various reasons, whatever reasons. But you have put things together using the bottom-up permit. directing water if it does happen to come down into the school, so it's not coming down green, but all those things are so practical. And I think will really go a long ways towards preventing the flooding, or at least making it a little bit less. And our neighbors along the creek, we have been talking about getting a list together, and everyone's ready to tell you what they've seen and make it even more practical. And we're so pleased and so happy that you're doing this. So thank you, and I hope that you're able to support Jenny's work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Barbara, go ahead. Steve, are you here to talk on this item?
I think this is a great opportunity for education about riparian zones. And the creek goes right through Blue Lake, and we should be learning about fish and it, so maybe we could have something at the Grange, like not to, she's going to do her job and she's awesome and we're glad that she has it. But for the community, it's a great opportunity for us to learn about what we have. And, so like there was historically 6 lakes in Blue Lake. Okay, maybe we can have some lakes. Maybe we could have the water go to places. Channelize as fast as it goes is not the natural way of things. Maybe we can widen the riparian zone, and maybe we can have the creek bend. I don't know. It's just interesting opportunities. And then I was wondering, if you're cutting trees, don't we need trees for the shade?
No, not this tree.
Okay, well, I don't know. I'm new in this conversation. And then, why, like, maybe the trees could be cut and could be firewood. I just hate to see things get wasted. Anyway, but maybe the Arts and Heritage Commission can do a fundraiser. Maybe we can get some line dancing and some burgers. Come on. You know what I mean? And if we could do stuff at the power plant, that's a great fundraiser. We need to be able to have some fat freaking fundraisers, right? Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Any further public comment on this item?
Do you want to say stuff?
You might start, but yeah, I turned off my phone, but I was going to show you the pictures that we took. Basically, okay, so Northfield subdivision had in their CCNR's requirement to have a ditch, a cement ditch, put in before the houses were built, after the purchase of the land. And I'm gonna try and show you a picture, but anyway, the ditch was approved and it's flat. It doesn't drain at all. It's an 1/8 of an inch drop behind 3 properties. So in other words, it's worthless. And so this tree, we've discovered, narrows this ditch the ditch is supposed to be, 2 feet wide, and it narrows down to about 4 inches where the tree root meets the other tree root. And so that backing up goes into Stacy's yard about 6-8 inches deep. And then it goes into my yard, and there's a virtual river going through now it flows into Powers Creek. I'm sure it flows into Powers Creek. Yeah, so it's part of the whole system. And it's coming off the mountain behind 299. The county put in a culvert I always said so you can live in it. But anyway, it's a culvert and it's directing that even more water into this very flat, worthless ditch that was accepted way back in the day. And the guy that built it's buried up in the cemetery. So he's long gone and not worth worrying about. But anyway, that's why we're talking about what can we do to fix this flat ditch that's not working, and moving this tree. And there's another one that's basically narrowing this right of way of the water to go into, I don't know what the name of the creek is. Railroad Creek. Okay.
That's the local name for it.
And, I don't want to know how much money I've spent over the last 35 years to move this water off my property and not go under my house. I have 2 rows of French drains protecting my house. And there's another French drain that we built on Stacy's property before she ever lived there, just to move this water around the house. And when she waters her front yard, it would flood my front yard. So I had to do some more putting in pipes under the sidewalk and so on. That didn't happen when it was built.
Anyway, there's just a lot of water and it's coming off the mountain. It's creating the problem down here. Okay, so I'll show you pictures if you want. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
You go ahead.
We're doing 3
Supervisor
minutes.
Madrone, apologies.
So, I doubt I'll get done in 3 minutes, but I'll do my best. Jenny's on the right track. You know, all of these things, when we're dealing with projects, have a value somewhere, and that's the real trick to keeping the cost down in restoration or flood control, is not just looking at something as a problem you have to deal with and spend money, but what can that material be used at? So the gravels coming out of the creek could be used in development of the industrial park. So that's what lowers that cost from 6 million down to something far less by not having to haul it all away and do all that kind of stuff. So that's absolutely, I applaud you, Jenny, for thinking that way. And I know the engineers that were involved also brought that stuff up along with Ottawa. But I would actually over excavate it by another foot so that you could then take that foot of scrapings and put it back on the banks, because that has a value. You know, if you don't, you're hauling it away at great cost. Nobody wants it, but it actually is the native soils and seeds and willow cuttings and things that you want to restore the banks after you get it to the right channel dimensions. So it's just a thought that if you over excavate it by a foot, you got room to put that foot back on, and it's the exact material you want to put on there. So at any rate, that's just one piece of it. As far as rearing, you were correct. There she is. That the creek does dry up. We all know this. And even if you dig ponds and create these systems within it, it will still dry up, because Powers Creek used to drain into the North Fork at Old Blue Lake before the levees were built. When the levees got built, it shoved the North Fork way out there, and now Powers Creek has to go another mile and a half before it gets to the river, which makes it a really flat grade and dumps out all of its sediment. So the system has been changed. And as far as rearing, yeah, in the main stem of the creek from Hatchery Road down, it has very limited, if at all, summer rearing habitat. It's like the gentleman said, back up above the post office, back up in there, there's perennial water all the way up to Blue Lake Boulevard and above. And there is rearing of fish in there in the summer, both coho and steelhead. And they have survived all of these years because Old Blue Lake, before it was illegally filled, was in fact where 90% or more of the summer young of the year fish reared. It was in Old Blue Lake, because the beaver would take Powers Creek and dam it up in May, right at the confluence of the South Fork of Powers Creek or Railroad Creek, where they came together. The beaver would come in every spring and build a little brush dam and divert Powers Creek directly into Old Blue Lake, making a massive 3-4 acre pond that was 10 to 15 feet deep. And that's where these fish reared. So that is still always going to be your best chance to rear salmon, steelhead in this creek, is restoring Old Blue Lake. And it's the namesake, for goodness sake, right? So, and we had that opportunity when I was on this city council. I had grants in my hand from Humboldt Area Foundation to buy Old Blue Lake before it was filled, when the beaver was still alive. And I had a grant to buy the Redwood Grove up by Blue Lake Boulevard, both from willing sellers for $25,000 a piece. And I brought it to the council, and the council voted 4-1 to accept the grants. And Humboldt Area Foundation said, nope, it's not unanimous. We're pulling the grants. It was a 4-1 vote. So we lost that incredible opportunity, but it is still your best opportunity, even at $500,000 buying that parcel and then dredging back out Old Blue Lake. It's $1 million project. That compared to 6 to whatever million for the creek. I still think reducing flooding problems on doing the cross sections in the creek are really important. But as far as salmon rearing, steelhead, Old Blue Lake, it's $1 million project. You can get the grant to do that. There's sometimes been willing seller, it keeps changing hands, but that's where the fish would rear. And it's really sad the beaver got shot and the lake got filled illegally. Anyway, lastly, on the drainage thing up on Northfield, the city accepted that drainage system into its system. And where this redwood tree chokes the drainage is on city property, but the county drains its road, Blue Lake Boulevard, into this system as well. So got together with Jenny and our public works staff. We thought maybe we could do a joint project here and work together, right? And so that's what the proposal is. It's about a $9,000 project for traffic control, removal of the tree, which is a 2-foot diameter tree. There are 2 other trees right nearby that are 5-foot diameter trees. Those are staying. But the 2-foot diameter tree can be removed in its root wad, widen the ditch out, haul all that stuff away. It's on Pete Busman's property. He's agreed to cooperate. He wants the logs. And the county will haul everything away, take care of all the construction, all the work. We're just asking the city to cost share with us and have a cooperative project together. Well, imagine that, working together, right? So Jenny, there's a lot consideration for helping to make these things happen. So happy to answer any questions, but let's do it.
Does anyone have any questions for Steve? Go ahead.
Martha mentioned some diversion off 299.
299. Thank you.
That is reaching that
Yes.
that area.
I think the city ought to send a letter to Caltrans requesting an investigation into what's going on with the drainage, what kind of changes have been made, and where that ends up in the system. Because the culvert up by the school, I call it School Creek, comes down and actually goes directly into the river, except when it overflows and comes down through Greenwood. It was always an undersized culvert system, and now it's worse with all this extra input put in. But you need to investigate it. And Caltrans actually has a massive fund in what's called their TMDL funds, total maximum daily loads. They were required by the State Water Board to set aside millions of dollars to do projects like this to reduce sedimentation to salmon streams. And when that overflows those culverts and comes down the streets and the rest of it, that's putting sediment and other things into Powers Creek. So I would be asking Caltrans to investigate the drainage situation and also to help fund the upgrading to that culvert as mitigation for what they've done, sending more water that way. And that's potentially one of the sources of funding that you might want to investigate, the TMDL fund that Caltrans has set aside. Just a thought.
I have a question.
Just, we'll take council questions first, and then I'll do a quick public. Any other questions from council? Thank you, Steve. Go ahead.
Has anything been done with the well that's right there by the mouth of the old Blue Lake? I was wondering if we could get the lake restored. Doesn't the city have a well right there? And they could possibly use that well water to pump into the lake. To help keep that lake up in the summer. Or if we don't have a lake, I was wondering if we could use that well water to pump into Powers Creek to try and keep it wet during the summertime.
Yeah, the problem
water's in that, but
yeah, I hear what you're saying. The problem with Powers Creek is it's extremely porous and it will lose whatever you try to put into it. Old Blue Lake was not so porous because it had sediment laden bottom to it when Old Chardon Hotel, where's that picture on the wall right there, sat on the lake and they took boats out, and it was a real thing for Eurekans to come out here to the sun and boat on the lake and stay at the hotel. And it's because it had a clay, silty bottom to it that holds water. You don't need the well. What you need to do is just buy the old Hawkswell property or the trailer storage area, either side, and dredge it back out, okay? And then get it down to the water's there. It's just under the soil. And then guess what? The beaver will come back on their own, and they don't require any engineered plans or any permits to do their work. So the city doesn't have to pay a dime to manage the beaver. They'll do it all on their own. So anyway, got a question?
Last call.
Caltrans.
Sorry.
I would, I'm just wondering if Caltrans is going to, if they do their own investigation, aren't they gonna just defend their position? They're not going to.
It needs to be based on actual on the ground information, not just opinion or whatever.
We're a little farther along on
I'm sure.
investigation than.
I'll bet you are. I'll bet you are.
Report on themselves.
Well,
there's documents that will show.
They have to take responsibility for their actions. That's the bottom line. They're a state agency and the city can help hold them accountable. And it sounds like Jenny's well on her way to.
Thing is, it's in the county, and that's,
Yes.
Hank and I are working together.
The Patriot Station and the culvert under Blue Lake Boulevard are county, but then it comes over underneath the school property and then that's city. And then it goes down to Rancheria and, you know.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
You're 3 minutes overdue, sir. You want to ask one more question? Sure.
She hasn't spoken.
Oh, sure, go ahead. Sorry.
So I could be doing it all wrong. But I'm Martha's neighbor. And in my opinion, the flooding starts at my house because of the culvert that was put in, the ditch that was put in my backyard. It is like this. Every year for probably at least the last 5 years, it's doing the thing where I can see it coming up. And I'm like, it's coming, oh my gosh. And there's nothing I can do because the backup is beyond my property. So it keeps going, but I have that ditch, I keep it cleaned out, it's completely clear. It's when it starts to go down, I guess it's Railroad Creek. And it goes down into the big plot of land that's just land out there with the trees in it. So I'm asking for help because I can't do it. I don't know what else to do.
Yeah, just come in and,
I don't even know.
I'm the city manager. My name is Paris City Hall, 5 days a week. Both of you, I mean, I'm looking for information about specific locations I can put on my map, so come talk to me.
Thank you. All right, if there's any other public comment? Seeing none. Becky, go ahead.
Okay, hello. Can you hear me?
Gotcha.
Okay, so everybody's talking about the flow of Railroad Creek. So Railroad Creek goes under at Elisa's house, comes out into the field of Marias's, drains into the old Blue Lake, runs over and goes under Hatchery and into Powers Creek. So if you want to know how it flows, I've got old pictures of it for the last 20 years. So anybody wants to know how that flows, just let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Becky.
Thank you, Becky. And I did find an answer to your question, Elise. I think it was you that asked about how much. So when they were talking about phase 2 and 3 being 10,000 cubic yards more and 38,000 total, they said as a visual, it would be 1 acre, 10 feet high.
Yes, go ahead.
I have a question. Is there any other property nearby that the city has that the gravel could be stored for that length of time?
Just I can't think of anywhere else that we own.
The old dump vacant.
Yeah. In that location that's been identified, is that also the location that was identified for possible RV park?
It depends on which version of a plan you're talking about. I mean, I've seen RV parks over in Cafe's property, and I've seen them where Danco's project is, and I've seen the entirety of the power plant being resort.
It was the one that I think did fall just on the power plant I was talking about. Where are we at with getting the chips removed? This fella? Okay.
He's made no progress.
Okay. That's all right.
Mix them together.
And that space that we're talking about storage is currently this, how many acres?
Do you know? Do you know what the space is that's marked out? Is it an acre? Okay.
And it's already cleared right now?
It's got a little bit of vegetation on it, but it's.
But it's not like the area that's stacked with chips.
No, it's farther down than that. It's closer to the trail.
Okay.
Is the old dump site accessible?
And your trucks going down Ivy Lane.
That's tough. That would be really tough.
Cost related to turnaround.
It's the switch, yeah.
Any other questions? Do we wish to entertain a motion if there's no further discussions?
I have a question about the recommended action.
Sure.
Do you want to detail what it's supposed to say?
Sure, I think I wrote down what I wanted here. I would like for you guys to authorize $20,000 for flood preparation and creek maintenance. And I also would like you to modify the previous action taken on June 10th, 2025 to receive the spoils in amount not to exceed the 28,000 cubic yards for the gravels and a term not to exceed 8 years.
And can I ask one question before we do that? Would that also include having them take the other away?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You mean take
Can you
the-
repeat that
take
question?
The bad stuff away.
Yeah, that first roof off, I'd like to not keep, I don't want to keep it at the power plant. If they reincorporate it into the project, that'd be awesome. I don't think the city should take responsibility for it.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to go ahead and change the period to 8 years rather than 4 years for the storage of gravels and such pulled from the creek. And then also to approve $20,000 towards the cost of these flood preparations and maintenance.
That'll include the 4,500 to the county as well. The 20,000 includes that.
Well, I was hoping Steve might go, proportionate county budget to the city budget.
I would second that motion.
We have a motion made by Napier, and seconded by Michelle Lewis Lusso. Essentially, the motion was stated by the city manager, so I hope we'll refer to that motion.
Yeah.
Made by the city manager, essentially. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Great.
Are you gonna call CAL FIRE in the morning and tell them where to go?
Yeah.
I actually haven't contacted her all.
Is there just one location that we could pull from, or are there?
Steel River is really the only one that's left anymore. They're actually the ones that are coming up and doing some work in Big Lagoon for me.
All right, moving on to item number 12, elections update. City Clerk Green, are you filling us in on this item or city manager? Floyd? Okay, great.
I'm the election official.
Great. Yeah.
So just a quick update. So as you guys know, the nomination period for candidates to appear on the ballot opened July 13th. And the original deadline was August 7th, but since we have only had one of two of our incumbents file, we are in a 5-day extension period. So tomorrow at 5 p.m. is the last day to submit paperwork. At the time that I wrote this staff report, I only had one candidate packet, but I now have 4 qualified candidates. So anyone that is interested, you have till tomorrow by 5. 5 is the cutoff. I need to be in Eureka, so please don't wait till 5 or else your papers will not get in. I've included some important dates from here on. So this extension for the candidacy period ends tomorrow. September 7th through October 20th, if you're interested in becoming a qualified write-in, there are papers that you can submit for that. You still have to do all the same forms that folks are doing now to be on the ballot, but you would just be considered a valid write-in. So if you're interested in more information about that, you can always come down to City Hall and talk to me about that. And again, that period starts September 7th and goes to October 20th. The nearest ballot drop-off will be at Murphy's Market in Glendale, and the closest in-person voting center will either be Arcata Community Center or the McKinleyville Middle School. So I just want to put that out for folks to remember for Election Day, which is on November 3rd.
Great. Any questions from council on this?
So just to clarify, you have 4 qualified candidates that have been verified with their signatures and that. That's exciting. And so everybody knows there's 2 positions, correct?
2 4-year positions.
Any other questions?
Was it an option to have a ballot box here at Prash Hall?
I can't recall why they weren't doing that anymore. I think it had something to do with the turnout and costs. I can always reach out if that's something that you guys are.
Are we so just the day, the election day drop off, there's no, I mean, you can put it in the mail, but there's no box in Blue Lake.
No.
And I know for the recall election, we had a box at City Hall for that one day. I wonder if that's something that could be done for election day.
I could certainly reach out to them and see what that would entail. And if that's something that is doable, then give you guys a brief update at our next meeting saying, hey, this could be, or certainly before the election cycle, if I don't hear by the 25th, but letting folks know that there could be a ballot drop off.
And it's true, it's not a large turnout, but the feedback that we had gotten last time when there wasn't going to be a ballot box was some people really felt that was their only option. Wanted that. So at least if we know what might be a barrier to it or what might be expense. Thank you.
To find out more. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
Opening up the public, can you tell us what you comment on this item?
I wanted to thank the city clerk for tolerating my comments over the period. There is a learning curve here and she had access to Juan Pablo, who was a fantastic source for things. And I think we got everything posted satisfactorily. It's always better to make sure you go overboard on things rather than under on these things. And I assume that when I left the house, there were only 3 people qualified. I assume when I get home, the 4th person will be on the webpage so I can see who that person is. So it's likely that's my crystal ball. That's appreciated. So anyway, it's a fantastic thing that we do have people interested in running. In the past, there's been times when we haven't even had qualified candidates to fill chairs, and we've had to have appointments. So it's great that the public feels a desire and need to participate in the process. And thank you for running this thing. And I'm sure it's going to get easier, and you won't have to deal with me next time, most likely. Thank you, Martin, to speak.
Thank you, Enoch Hale. Just to be clear, deadline is tomorrow at 5 p.m., but it's actually 4:30 p.m.
That would be cutting it close. But I gotta,
Oh,
to drive to Eureka from here, it's like.
Deadline's actually 4:15 p.m.
Yeah. Or it's possible. I mean, to be fair, the earlier you do it, the better, because then if you're one signature off, you can go get another signature. If there's something missing, there's time to correct it. So earlier the better, but yes, absolutely, it's 4:15. If you want to roll the dice, yeah.
Any other public comment? Julie, go ahead.
Can you guys hear me at Ferndale Fair?
Yep.
Awesome. I'm sorry I missed out earlier. And thank you for just being due diligent with the process. Thank you, Kent, for being at supervisors earlier. And, I don't want to poke any bears, but when something's listed on the agenda as an update, it should be kept as an update. I didn't have my hand raised on the last one. But for this one, I am gonna contradict Kent, which doesn't happen often, but he said qualified. In my opinion, you guys, we've got 2 people qualified and 2 people that honestly, even when we've had a lot of evaluations of employment in the past, I've always been very professional, saying this is never personal. It's based off professionalism. And honestly, it's just unpractical to have people back in there that, with not being personal, it's just very unprofessional to have them back in there or even involved. And if they wanted to be, let's see those people that have been involved recently in the last 2 years. Those are the people to vote for. And as far as not having voting at the school and crash, maybe bring back, Sam, how many people turned out at the school and for the recall to actually vote. And if it warrants making it happen, I think it warrants it. If it was really a bad turnout, then obviously we just got to promote people to get out to the resources they can. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Last call for public comment. Seeing none. Bring it back to council. This was just an update, correct, Sam? And if you can't tell me, that's fine. Are there any more candidates out there besides the 4 that have submitted?
Not given any other candidates. If you come grab a packet at 4:15, then we're not gonna make it, so yeah.
Maybe Sam spends about an hour with each candidate, just going through the papers, and then you have to go get 30 signatures from qualified voters. So it's an all-day event. So if you're thinking you want to run,
Get in there at
9 a.m. 9 a.m.
early mornings.
Yep.
Great. Any other questions from council before we move on to the next item? All right, moving on to item number 13, bike and skate park update. City Manager Short.
Okay. So I wrote my staff report in one order, but after thinking through how I want to present this, I'm going to present the information in the order that the corrective action plan is set up in. So it's all the same information that's in the staff report, but instead of having it in a bunch of different places, I'm going to try to consolidate it up into topics. So the first step in our corrective action plan was for staff to coordinate with the vendors that were claiming that they had outstanding financial obligations and verify the validity of those. And a number of those were completely done with. On July 15th, Dana Creech and Tavis Kane both came in and met with myself and Emily. And we received at that point hundreds of photos and drone footage and videos and just a whole bunch of information that really helped to clear up some of the questions that I had as to what happened when and who was there and who wasn't. The other thing that became really obvious was that Tavis had financed the first $18,000 of this project directly in his payments to Dana. And the time period that covered was October of 2023, when they first started mobilizing equipment out there, and February of 2024. Once I had a date and I could start looking through old emails, I actually found an email from Mandy to the rest of the staff informing them that she had this meeting with Tavis and here's where it was at, and the city needed to take over fundraising. And so there was a real shift that happened there. And that has helped a lot in working with Dana on what part of the invoice that he submitted to the city falls into that time frame. The photos were also very helpful in being able to evaluate what equipment was there at any given time. And so at this point, I've created a spreadsheet that by month lists every kind of equipment and different materials that I can see on site, and how the construction is progressing to come up with a concept of, based on what I can see in pictures, here's what seems like is valid. I have now sent that to him, and he's having a chance to review it and then provide me with more input. We also had an additional meeting with well, let me back up. So the other thing I did with the photos that it was in your packet was I created a timeline, and I used some of the work that Jill had done previously, laying out how the planning commission approved it and what actions were taken and what dates those were done on. And then all of the places where the previous city manager had made an update in her city manager's report or as an agenda item to the council, and what that actually consisted of. And then I went through and I added photos and emails and little pieces of information that I'd found as I'd gone through this stuff, how to lay out what happened when, and when was it winterized and when was it not, and when did the equipment come back and who knew what when. So you now have kind of a really rough outline of what could potentially become a more involved formal report if council feels like it's necessary. But at this point, I feel like we have a lot of the answers to the questions. And the other thing that happened is Mandy sent a letter a couple of weeks ago, and she sent it to several people in the community and to myself and I think Michelle. So at this point, you all have it. It was an attachment in this packet. And she kind of explained how some of this worked and why she did what she did and why she felt like what she did was okay. But it was helpful to have her take responsibility for the decision-making process that she had. The city the city contracted with Points West, as you guys know. They've now completed their surveying efforts. We have 4 different versions of maps that are in your packet. And for the sake of the people in the audience, in case they haven't seen them, I'm going to share at least some of them.
So you're going to show the slides that you made?
I was going to do right here, if I can get. So instead of showing them in the order that they're numbered, I'm going to show them in the order that is farther back, because I'm realizing that people don't know where stuff is, and some of them are really close up. So this is the one that that Jesse made, that we requested, and included all the property boundaries. So you can see here in red, this triangle that comes around, this is all one piece of property. And I spent quite a bit of time looking through old deeds and old parcel maps. I went through the old industrial park records in City Hall that go back to the 70s and 80s to come up with enough documentation that we are confident at this point that this is all one legal parcel. It is 2 different APNs. And the reason that we believe the 2 APNs were created is that at the time that this parcel was created in a parcel map, the city limits were right here. And so they divided it into where was city limits and where wasn't for tax purposes. And of course, that doesn't matter now because it's all within the city. But at least we figured out why there was 2 different APNs, and both on the same sheet. So that has been helpful in understanding whether or not there needs to be like a lot line adjustment to deal with the Danco project, and how does the bike park interact with it. You can see on this map, they fit together very, very well. this right here is the path that Danco is proposing for an offsite improvement that brings the one around the back all the way to the front, and that could also be used as an access into the park back here. You can see the very bottom of the pile of dirt that comes up to the drop-in point, basically just skates along the edge of that. And so there isn't any portion of this that would have to be demolished to be able to accommodate Danco's development. And Danco does not need to make any changes to their development to accommodate the construction at the bike park. They've already done that accommodation when they slid their entire project to the east, I guess. So do you have any questions about this specific map? Okay. The other maps that they've provided, one is a detailed blow up. It shows what's paved and what's not paved. It's got all the topographical lines on there. It shows water line, sewer line, pump station, storm drain. It includes all of the things that we asked for in the corrective action plan in detail where you can just see the information. Do you ever have it?
What percentage of, what's the same from the original drawing?
I'll show you.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So then the second thing that they produced for us, because we asked them to overlay it, is this map. And so at this point, they turned off the aerial so that they could overlay what the planning commission approved, but they left on the topography line so you can see what has and hasn't been disturbed. So I drew this red on here. This is the area of disturbance that's beyond the footprint of what was approved by the planning commission. Now, obviously, there's been some bigger changes than just that it's bigger than it was supposed to be. They took two different versions of two different tracks and they've combined them up into this one very large track that has multiple jump lines on it instead of just single jump lines on two different things. It's significantly taller than it was originally anticipated in being, but yeah, Mike, we'll let Mike give. He's here to talk about this, so I'm not going to steal your thunder on your stuff. But you can see that all this area outside of here that's been disturbed is beyond the scope of what was permitted in the grading permit or in the planning commission's approval of the project and would need to be run through a grading permit of some kind. In addition, if we're going to do a phase 2 that includes development of the rest of the areas surrounding this up to the sidewalk that here, I'll back up here. This area here that's all around here and all around the back, if we're going to include all those areas in phase 2, then we of course will need to pull permits for all of that once we know what phase 2 is supposed to consist of and what the public would like there. Okay, let me check here. There are a couple things in step 3, which was the topographic survey of existing construction that are not complete yet. There are things that Jesse is glad to do for us, but at this junction, I wanted to bring this back to you guys and get some input on how do we want to proceed from here. So in this section that we called topographical survey of existing conditions, the two things that are still missing are, you'll notice these are all plan view maps. And so one of the things that we wanted were dimensions and elevations of critical features, including length, width, berm radius, and roller spacing, and also cross sections showing the above reference features, or probably profile lines that go around the jump lines so that you can see as you go around the entire thing, what is the up and down for each one of the 3 to 4 of them that can be designated. Jesse can do that. But if we are going to proceed with the concept of having phase 1 stamped by an engineer, it might be more prudent to have the engineer do that. At this point, Jesse's created a topographical surface. It's a 3-dimensional surface that he can draw a line on the plans and it'll just create a cross section, and then you'll see what they are. But an engineer is going to need to then take those and probably redo them to make sure that they've seen the process, and then evaluate the slopes and the distances and the spacing of things and some of the items that we listed in surveying that might really be more of an engineering sort of a task. The step 4 was coordination with risk management carriers to verify the insurability. And so in that process, they were very clear that they needed some sort of an as-built stamped drawing by a licensed engineer or architect. And I had Mike come because I want him to talk some about his willingness to participate in this process. I would like for council to understand that if we're gonna break this project into two phases, phase one being just completion of the asphalt, putting up a safety fence and doing some slurry sealing and striping out there so that the part that's already built can be opened, then the likelihood of finding an engineer that is independent from having seen any of the construction is low. If we're going to keep that bike park closed until we get funding for phase two from some sort of a grant program and then do a design of the entire site where they would evaluate what's already been built and then they would also design everything that goes around it, then I think it's likely that we could find somebody in an RFP process, but that could be years. I mean, it's hard to say how long it will take to find grant funding to do phase two. At this point, my recommendation is we consider phase one, we close out phase one, we open the park and use what we have, and then we work hard on trying to get phase two completed so that we can put the rest of the amenities out there that were originally intended as part of the project. So that's one of the things that I'm asking for you guys to provide direction on today is which route are we going on this? Step 5 is a comparison of as-built conditions with approved project documents. And I have started doing that. I have looked, with Dan, who's our building official, a little bit about what's out there and what was compared to the grading permit. He talked to me a little bit about how that grading permit got issued. And so I would like to get some understanding of how far into this do you want to go? I mean, there's a list here, and this list can be pretty straightforward bullet point report that's 1 page long that says, the planning commission approval was not followed, the building permit was not followed, like that really is the truth of the situation. There's some things regarding like applicable ADA accessibility requirements that needs to be done as part of the as-built evaluation before it's stamped for phase one. And so like that is part of a remediation plan. The stormwater management and erosion control requirements. If we finish paving it this summer and it's already been completely buttoned up, then we don't need this. But if we leave additional areas open that can have erosion happen this winter, then we will need to address what BMPs are out there now and what additional BMPs might need to be placed because they wear out. Just a second, let me read my notes, make sure I tell you the stuff in order.
What's the BMP?
As a best management practice. So they're like sandbags and they're straw wattles, and we put them out around all of the DIs during the winter so gravel doesn't get into the storm drain system and runs into the creek and things like that. Also for step 5, on July 29th, the Bike and Skate Park Ad Hoc Committee met and we invited Dana Creech to come and talk to us some. It was just kind of a free opportunity to ask him questions. I got some clarification on kind of what the vision was when they started this and what remained to be built. John and Shell, right? Sometimes I forget. You guys had an opportunity to ask him questions that you had about history and how did we get here and a bunch of the stuff. He brought, I don't know, probably 100 text messages or something amongst all the different parties with different things that had been planned. And we went over what areas still need to be paved. And so I had Jesse prepare, this is really hard to see on here. You can see a lot better in the real world. I'll zoom in. You can see here where it says new asphalt, on this part that's the outside is blue and the inside is light gray. There's a piece there. And there's also a piece up here that's this return line that connects up what was already built. Those are the 2 pieces that need to be paved for this to be an operable facility. The total square footage of those is 6,290 square feet. And we're figuring that we're running asphalt about 3 inches deep, which equals out to about 116 to 120 tons, depending on, variability and stuff. I called and talked to Kernan this week, and I didn't know this when I wrote the report, I would have included it, but they're willing to honor the old price of the $110 per ton. They're willing to run the plant multiple days if we need it. They will charge us a nominal amount for delivery, and Scott is willing to donate a $2,000 credit against whatever the cost actually ends up being. So we're probably looking at being able to buy asphalt for somewhere between $13,000 and $15,000. Last time Dana was able to get a very large crew of people to come out and lay the asphalt, and we didn't pay anything for the labor. Part of the reason the asphalt out there looks as good as it does, I mean, it's nicely laid asphalt, is that Hemmingson Construction's paving crew came and they actually ran that and they told people what to do and they checked for quality assurance. And Dana indicated that they would be willing to do that again. So if we can come up with a way to allow them to have a work day, get their volunteers together, buy the $15,000 worth of asphalt, I think that we can finish paving that to the point where it theoretically could be opened. Yes.
So when Gina had the check cut to Dana last 2 years ago, I think it was now, or a year and a half ago, that was to finish this.
The 20,000.
Yeah, that was to finish this.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that. The check actually came from the city.
I know, that's why I'm bringing that up, because nothing got done with that $20,000. I'm just telling you, I was here.
That hasn't come out in any of the stuff that, I mean, we should have asked Dana that when he was here, if that's what we thought.
Well, that's what he told me. He's like, I just want to get this, covered over so we can move on. I'll just take the money and get the paving done. So I just didn't know, what exactly that money went to. That's what I'm asking, or telling you essentially.
Yeah, and he did not pay for any of the asphalt for any of these phases. I mean, all the asphalt has been run through the city's invoicing system, and our CMBA paid 13,000 of it, and then the rest of it, the city paid for the first 350 tons. So I'm not sure how that would, other than the equipment. I mean, he had a lot of equipment out there. I mean, they had torches and they had compactors and they had rollers and they had an excavator and they had a front loader and they had two backhoes with grading boxes on the back. And there was a lot of stuff out there that's expensive to rent and or use. And so I don't know. I do know that when you and I met with him, he said he would donate his equipment to finish the paving and his time.
I'm just letting you. That's all.
All right. So initially when I wrote this, I was asking you to authorize people to be able to do fundraising to come up with the $15,000. But yesterday we received the $200,000 check from Humboldt Area Foundation. And so we now have the $150,000 that the Brunson Family Trust had donated to the city for the purposes of finishing the bike park and getting it open. So I would like for council to consider allocating part of that for the asphalt as opposed to people having to go out and do additional fundraising to come up with the $15,000. And did you get prices on slurry? Okay, we were trying to get a price on slurry this afternoon, but. And then phase one also includes the installation of a permanent fence between the road and the bike park itself. And North Fork Lumber had originally indicated to Mandy that they would be willing to donate that. And so I would like to reach out to them to make sure that that's still the case and find out, what volume of material they're talking about. What is it exactly? It's always sounded like a split rail fence and everything that I've seen. But all of the fencing that's out there is Tavis's. He's just allowed the city to continue to use it for years while we've left it closed, and to date has not charged the city anything for it. And some of the decision about whether there's 2 or 3 phases to this project will probably have to be decided based on the amount of grant funding that we can get for things. Emily has done a lot of research into round 5 for the state parks per capita grant program. And we have a list here of 6 community input sessions that we would like to hold. The first one we did on Sunday at Annie and Mary Day. And I probably talked to at least 150 people at the table. 52 of them filled out paper responses about what they would like to see there. And some people had some really creative ideas. It was actually very fun to hear people's input into the process. We would also like to do a back to school night at the school and table there so that we can try to get more input from the parents and the kids that actually live in this community. We're proposing to do one at the Parks and Recreation Commission meeting in September. We're proposing to do one on September 13th as part of the Mad River Enduro. And then the last week of September, we want to do like a general outreach section. Session, We haven't decided exactly where. And then October 3rd and 4th, one of those days of the medieval festival, we like to put a table up and ask more of the not just people who live in Blue Lake, but people who come to Blue Lake because of the events that are here, what would they be most inclined to use out there? So Emily's anticipated cost for all of the materials and the banners and all of the stuff that it takes to do these 6 outreaches is $500. And so because it's the bike park, we're coming to ask you if it's okay to spend the $500 on. She's got a banner, easels, tables, printed materials, pins, drawing items, stickers, marketing jar, all the stuff that it takes to be able to do a community outreach. So I had some suggested actions, but as you've heard in my presentation, there's a couple of things that I would like to be clear about is recommended action number 2, the community outreach is specific for the state parks per capita grant program, and we are using the goals and the criteria that are for that grant to ask the questions. Some of the things, even like when I was interacting with little kids on Sunday, and I'd ask them, well, what would you want that grass to feel like? Because part of what they want is more and more input from people on like their tactile experiences there and stuff. And so we're being really careful to make sure that we use that criteria to ask the right questions to get the response so we can get points that we need to try use the money. And then on number 4, I would like to know if instead of doing fundraising, if we can use money from the Brunsons. And for number 5, I need you to tell me black and white what we're going to do about getting this stamped by an engineer and whether you're okay with Mike doing it or somebody else at SHN doing it, or do I have to find somebody at a totally different firm that's not local?
Do we have any questions, or do you want to open up for public comment and then come back for questions? Okay. Does the public wish to comment on this item? Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Enoch Hill. So some of you may know my son. He's bike park enthusiast. In fact, when they were starting to build it, he was out there every day. His face pressed up against the chain link, and they let him help build it. And we were part of the family and the RCMBA crew that went out there and helped lay the asphalt. I would like to thank the city manager for your due diligence and exploring all of the options and laying out the recommendations. Thank you for that. I understand that there's challenges. I mean, 100%. I think that dwelling on some of those challenges, although context is important, maybe like rhetorically redundant at this point, like perpetuating some procrastination when we have a pragmatic piece that we have to deal with as a town. With that said, I would strongly encourage the council to approve like opening this bike park, understanding that we have to do our due diligence and thinking about what its implications are for the city, for engineering, et cetera. And to your point or just regarding like what people feel, I invest in my children and their experiences, and the fact that my kid is riding his bike instead of playing video games or exploring other types of recreational abuses is something I will completely stand behind, to the point that, I mean, this is just purely anecdotal at this point. It's not evidence to the bike park, but for me, that bike park represents something that's definitely in the future. I mean, he just turned 13 a couple weeks ago, and he's picked up by a downhill mountain biking team and sponsored at this point. And I see a vision. I see a vision to the extent that he wants to pursue that. And this bike park is something that's intimately connected to him, to us, to our family. So that being said, I would also request that, and I don't know the details, so here's my ignorance, but the most recent Brunson family donation, for the purposes of that, the extent to which the council can be transparent in how that money is allocated and where and when, I think could possibly alleviate some of the concerns that the citizens have in terms of the future of this place. And my last point is, in terms of grant applications, I 100% would volunteer my time. I've worked at the university and I have lots of experience with grant applications and securing grants. I would 100% dedicate my time to helping the city secure those, to make this project something that is both beneficial to the city, it's responsibly constructed, and opens as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Further public comment? Yes, go ahead.
Good evening and thank you for your service. My name is Sal Ingrilli. And our family bought Ram and Nancy Branson's house. So we are aware that a significant portion of those proceeds is going to be benefiting the city and the rink and also this, this bike park. And that makes us very happy. And it makes many others happy as well. The other kids, parents, staff, and volunteers that we meet all around in parks, playgrounds, and the camps. So we've been doing that for a while now. Now, this morning, when we went to camp, they all wanted to come and talk to you tonight. So we made a little agreement. How about we make some pictures and show them at the meeting so you can see what the younger generation being represented. So here my PowerPoint presentation and just hold it up. So that's this was done at the Arcata Skate Camp. All right, so there are all those kids over there today. They sign in the front or put a picture, whatever. In the front if you like it, in the back if you don't want it, and it's not in the back. Then in the afternoon we were okay. Put it back here. In the afternoon we went to the skate park and then we went to Redwood. So those pictures came out. And then finally at the Redwood pump track. Here, check this one. Some pretty amazing stuff over there. And then this one is a 4-year-old that just wanted to show us that she can write the letter R. So, okay, we might take one. So basically the ask from their generation is twofold. One is, can you please teach us all about engineering, rules, procedures, government, local? Can we attend more of these council meetings? And then two, can you open the skate and bike park? That is it for us. Thank you.
Thank you.
John, go ahead.
John Bartholomew, Blue Lake resident. We request that City Council authorize the $15,000 needed for finishing the paving from the money just recently received from the Brunson donation. And winterizing that bike park is no fun. Been there, done that. It should not need to be done again. So if get the paving done, eliminate that problem, the drainage problems would go away. So I strongly urge you to authorize that money to be spent for the paving as soon as possible. There's a lot of people that will volunteer to help out there. I'll be one of them. And I know there's a lot of other people with RCMBA that will be out there, local bikers. Will I be riding the bike park myself? Probably not. I'll probably go over it once or twice, but in any event, I strongly urge you to get that paving done as soon as possible with the money already received. And I also strongly urge you to accept Mike Foggett as the engineer for the project to move this forward. Mike's been involved from the beginning. He knows how it was created, how it was.
No.
And Mike has been out there for hours and hours doing the winterization, doing the paving that's already been done. Now he's intimately familiar. And the problem is if you try to get a different engineer, it's going to take a long time to get them up to speed. Mike is up to speed. I strongly urge you to accept his expertise and let him be the engineer to get the project moving forward and keep it moving forward, at least to get phase one done so people can start using it. It's an eyesore right now. People can't use it. It's problematic for the city and it needs to be done as soon as possible, at least to be functional. Anyway, thank you very much for all your service. I realize it's been difficult and stressful, but we support you and what your actions are. So thanks.
Thank you.
I'm going to agree with quite a bit of what John just said. It is imperative we have the money now and to get that thing buttoned up. Fantastic working with businesses such as Kernan, who are willing to go ahead and hold at an old price. And I don't know how much inflation's been since they did that one, but it's significant out there for everybody. And then the flexibility of firing their plant up specifically for these kind of projects, I think we're moving forward. I do have to disagree with what John said there. I think it's always best to keep your city engineer and your project separate. It's a separate project. I don't know how that could be worked around somehow, but that's, in my opinion, is best. I've seen where separation doesn't happen, you end up in problems. The other major concern I have is I hate to use the term nuisance. It's an attractive something. And if that isn't fenced off correctly and we don't have full-time policing down there or something, you're going to have bad actors come in here and they're going to use it for a party place. You'll probably have older people do it. And I can just about guarantee you that's going to happen unless we have security down there that enables us to just lock that down. It's just what it is these days. We already have action down there where there used to be drug dealers down there on the road down there and other kind of nefarious things going on. If you do not have security for that and have a way to make it be safe, the children themselves won't be safe down there because you're going to have older people come in and it's just the nature of society these days. Strongly suggest that be incorporated. And prior to opening this thing, you have a site that I don't know whether split rail would qualify for that, but I think you're going to need a site with security there. And I do know it's most likely that you're whether required or not by your insurance company, I'm sure they would be more comfortable having a site that is secured. And I'd hate to have us end up with major problems because of failing to do that at this time. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. It's wonderful news. Brunson family is fantastic. I personally don't know, I won't speak for them, but the $500, they probably wouldn't have a problem with that coming out of that fund also because it's the overall objective of getting the thing done. And I think that's where their hearts were. So thank you.
Thank you. Barbara, go ahead. Or, sorry, sir, go ahead.
Just really quick. This is like the heart of our community right now. This is like the good thing that's going on, and the kids and their parents are going to protect it. I just have to go forward with a good energy and just don't let all the bad things that could happen keep stopping us. So good. Thanks for letting me comment. Sure.
John Randolph, Park Avenue. I just want to second what John Bartholomew said. I think that it's really important that we get this bike park finished and start using it. Right now, it's just sitting there. My 3 kids used to ride up and down Park Avenue in Acacia with wagons, homemade scooters, bicycles, skates, and they're on the street. And as a parent, you worry about that. They're all grown up now, but I have grandkids. And I'd love to be able to take grandkids out there and see them have fun in a safe place and not have to worry about cars running them over. And thank you for your due diligence in doing all this and looking into it. Really appreciate it. And I'd like to see this get completed. Thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
One thing that I realized from Mandy's letter is she never put that job out for bid. I looked over the McKinleyville Bike Park project, 425 pages of they put out for bid, how it had to go, how it had to be done, what had to be done to do it. So I didn't see the element that never happened. I just want to know how we're just going to have Hemmings do this without putting it out to bid. It's over $1,000.
They volunteer.
Well, so they're giving us all the pavement, they're volunteer all their time.
Volunteering all their time. We're only paying for asphalt.
How do we just select Kerner?
It's 15,000 is within the limits for procurement under a public works. Well under,
Where does the 15,000 come in?
that's what they're estimating.
So the state doesn't require you to go out to bid for 15,000?
Absolutely not.
Just good.
Yeah, I'm not sure why you think it needs to
Slow things down if you did that for every dollar spent.
Can you guys let her finish up, please? Thank you. Go ahead.
So, okay, I was looking at the state papers today and it said anything over 1,000. So I'd like to see that. And you can email it to me if you want. But I just want to make sure that you guys don't sign things that you're not sure that you can put your stamp of approval. I mean, it just seems like it's rollerballing again, like it did before. And we're just trying to get it done and trying to get it paved and trying to get it wrapped up. And you guys have to ask the questions how that's happening.
Additional public comment? Dylan, go ahead.
Hi there, this is Dylan Gray. I'm a Blue Lake resident, and I just wanted to follow up to again support John Bartholomew's comments that he's made and others. There's a lot of passionate support for this project in the community, and I do worry about the just holding back and the delays and getting it done. And I understand that you know this council and staff have had a really challenging job figuring out exactly how everything has played out to this point, and just to figure out the history. And I know that doesn't feel good. But I do hope that we can move forward on this quickly and as others have said, you know, wrap this up and have it actually be available to the community. I know that Bart called it an eyesore. I mean, to me, it's like it feels, my heart sinks every time I go past it because I know there's so much positive feeling around it. Amongst families with, you know, with younger children and mountain bikers, et cetera, and mountain biking community is very into it, of course. So thank you again for all of your work and consideration on this, and I would just urge the city to move forward on this expeditiously. Thank you.
Thank you, Dylan. Julie, go ahead.
I'm here, guys. Sorry, I'm digging you out of my pocket at the fair. Talk about volunteering for the children, and man, teamwork makes the dream work. I commend everybody that showed up this evening, speaking on behalf of anything on the agenda, and let alone sticking around to this agenda item. Like, I'm being a trooper too, you guys. But as far as staff needing a recommendation tonight to move forward, I did mention prior with the Brunson donation that we should be very transparent prior to that donation being received, that we do need to take a step back and get this done properly so it's not a liability on the city. Now, I reached out to McKinleyville, Rebecca, thank you. I reached out to McKinleyville quite a while ago because I work with their chamber too, and we have connections with running the arena up there and whatnot, and asked them how they did theirs. They had a firm out of Arizona, I think it was, and they're very expedient. Now, no offense on our current one. I guess I'm being polite saying that, you guys, but you know, the last couple meetings was like, oh, I didn't know what was happening. This stuff was just happening without no oversight. And this was none of your guys's, anybody sitting at that table right now and in the staff, please just understand they were not there, okay, prior to this stuff. Sorry, I'm like having to deal with kids and pigs. So please don't judge them. We are dealing with what's going on now, but to take the next step forward for the safety, like Kent was saying about keeping that place, like no offense on RCMBA and opening it up and doing all this stuff. That's a huge liability right now, homies. And then the next thing is Danco. Why is Danco getting slipped in this presentation like it's gonna happen? That's a one-way street. It floods, man. Danco should have never happened in the first place. We got the bike park now. Yes, we went over that subdividing, but we need that parking to get the kids off the street. You know, like there's other places in town to build and we got to work towards that. So many hoots. I love you all. Thank you for being there. I really appreciate everybody that's putting some effort in. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Last call for public comment. Mike.
Well, just real quick, I think Jenny presented, you guys have an opportunity to decide which way you want to go. If you do want to address phase one. I at least did see how that was being built. I think in terms of the quality of construction, you could at least see it's been 2 years, nothing settled, the asphalt's still in good shape. So in terms of means and methods and the type of material that they use for compaction, the work that they did follow standard construction methodology. If I were to stamp it, I would still have to coordinate with the insurance and what's required. So, and again, I have liability as a stamp and I take that seriously. And from that standpoint, I think it is hard to have someone come in that hasn't been around that or seen how that was for something already built is a challenge. Because I have reservations. So we get pulled into projects, we kind of start even halfway through it's happened where we've gotten involved and you have to go all the way back from the beginning and sort that out to have any confidence in what someone else may have done. So those are just the challenges. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Mike.
Go ahead. Can I ask you some more questions? So in terms of this type of a project versus other kinds of projects that you work on, or is this a specialized kind of a thing, or is this kind of like any engineer can work on this type of project?
Well, again, with engineering, it's still the practice act and what you have a background or experience in. So I deal with infrastructure, earthwork compaction. So that is in terms of what I deal with trails. So there are, this is still in terms of a bike park, there's still things that you look up in standards. So per the insurance, they still want to see details and cross sections and how that's laid out. So it will be more framing from that standpoint, looking at things. So I haven't even looked at the points file, the topo survey. There's things that have to be looked at and reviewed.
In terms of design and feasibility, design and function, that's stuff that you still have to work on and look into. But in terms of construction, materials and the way it was done,
I'm confident.
You're able to attest to that.
Yeah.
I do have a question for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
So in Amanda Mager's letter, she said that there isn't plans or designs. She said there's not, we could make it bigger, design or engineering for a bike park. Would it be true that if you are building something like that, the building code would still require plans and documents and engineering for a park of that magnitude when you're moving that much?
So let me explain a couple of things too. It's been brought up because, McKinleyville had a grant, goes out to bid. So all the, in terms of when they had plans and specs and some of the parks that have been built where you had it fully designed, had a set of plans going out to bid. It's because you had public dollars and you have to follow that. This came about again, the people had expertise in shaping it. And I did see how they would work that. So they'd move dirt, they'd ride their bikes and check out the jump lines. So these are professional riders that actually developed and worked on that park. So, when I go out to meet them, talk to them about drainage, periodically I'd stop by and just really talk about, I was more concerned about drainage and erosion control, but I would see how they were doing some of that work. I'd see, and we talk about some of the material that they got. They got good material. It came from, I believe, Humboldt State when they did the engineering buildings. That had finer clay, so it was good compactability, a silty clay material, but it compacted well. It's held up really well. So again, when I was out there seeing that, I did see how they're placing that material, and they're getting aggregate from Pepia. So they had a good blend of the different materials that they're using to kind of build that up and then get a base for the paving.
In your experience too, would it be also in this letter, it said that the whole intent was that you would, this project would grow over time and it would be an as-built, at the end, you would do an as-built on.
Yeah, and this is
Do you
basically,
find that to be a customary way?
this is a,
Works project?
yeah, this is an as-built. So that's all I'm attesting to is the as-built of what's been built.
No, but in your experience, would an as-built, building a public works project, you would do it and then do it as-built? Because she's stating in her letter that
Clear too.
was her intent from
When you're building, say, a wastewater treatment plant, like fixed hardscape infrastructure or building, or you have ADA where you have to have, you're not doing what's called design build. Sometimes you do design build, you might have a concept. And it's actually even in public works projects, design build is one of the methodologies to build projects.
Right, and I
You have a contractor and engineer and owner all at the beginning, work through the project, and you have conceptual plans, like a 30% design.
And I understand that design built, which would be different than having a project be as-built. So she was saying.
Well, as-built is just really documenting what was built. So that's actually very common. We do as-builts all the time because you will do a set of plans. And there's things that even happen during construction. There's like unforeseen things that may come up during construction where you have to modify the design. And so an as-built is a record of what got built at the end of the project. So that's a common term that's used in engineering.
And I would understand when you come back or like this, we're trying to fix it. I guess my question is, the statement says that that was the plan all along. And then at the end, you would do an as-built. And I'm not guessing that's a customary way to do it. I just wanted to clarify.
That might have been Mandy's plan. I think that was Mandy's plan.
Yeah, and
we would not normally not design something and then do an as-built. I mean, you usually design something and then you do an as-built. Or you do design build, you don't?
Yeah, you have a design concept.
yeah. And I guess my reasoning for this is a letter that's going out to the community and it's a letter that's coming to us. And that seems as if that's misinformation to the community, that that's how you would do it. And that a project of that scope, and maybe you can help me understand this if I'm incorrect, when you are moving that much earth, in grading it, this stepped into something that would require, a licensed contractor to be on that job. And so I'm still curious, who was the contractor? Who was the person who had control of that site during this project?
Dana was the person shaping this. I had nothing to do with the shape of that facility, how that was laid out. So Dana, he said, is a person that was brought in by Travis.
And so we're having a conversation. Then.
Again, this is phase one.
I'll let you continue. I just want to, Mike, me and you had a conversation on the side. Mike did ask Dana multiple times for drawings while he was building it.
Yeah. Repeatedly. I did ask for drawings. Is it changed from the beginning? He said he had them on anyway. I have a concept. I have a sketch of a concept. But they're not engineered drawings.
Was no conversation about stopping the work to be able to.
I was at the direction of the city manager at the time. So I mentioned the fact that it had, scope had changed. Bring that up to the city manager.
What's the response to that? I mean, if you remember, if you remember, Mike, that'd be great. But if you can't, then just keep moving forward or. Are those your words or those my words?
What? Anyway, anyway, I don't recall verbatim what she said, but the intent was that this is the direction that they were going with the project. So I was just supporting, like I said, drainage, storm drainage, things like that to at least support.
And I do have one question.
Yeah, finish up.
So you had said earlier that this project is different. And so I'd like to understand this project being different, that it wasn't using public dollars to do it, that it was just donations that came into the city. So maybe you, Jenny, you could help me understand, at what point when money is deposited into the city account, does that become city money?
Oh, it definitely becomes city money, but it wasn't originally set up that way, and it wasn't actually even going through the city's accounting system. There's a whole series of donations and expenses that went completely through RCMBA as a private nonprofit organization. And it wasn't until later that that money then, they kind of pooled everything they had left and they sent it to the city. And then the city started paying things. And that's why when I did the accounting for you, there's two very separate tables. There's the stuff that went through our RCMBA and then the stuff that went through the city.
So public dollars have been used.
Yeah, but I mean, we are not anywhere near the $220,000 threshold.
But we don't belong to that part of the public works. We don't have that. So for us, it's much less. Ryan,
What is the $220,000? That's the breaking point at which you have to actually go out and get bids, and it's not an informal process
Well,
anymore.
Ryan had told me, and
I don't know, I'm
like just
looking at it.
clarity. That there's some thing with the state that you belong to that says that here's the process you'll follow, and in doing all of these things, you can have a higher bidding amount. And Ryan said we did not. We've never done that in the city.
This is the state law. Public projects of more than $220,000 shall, except as otherwise provided in this article, be let to contract by formal bidding procedures. That's the limit.
Okay.
At 75,000, you can do it for a second.
But what's the basis of the $220,000?
Whatever the portion of the phases that you do.
Is it the value of the work that's being done? Does it include the property? Is it
No, it's-
only the work, whether it's volunteer or not?
It's only gonna be what you actually spend.
Well, over the last
Do you
year,
mind, sorry, do you mind if we, would you go?
I was just saying, over the last year, we've heard lots of different numbers. We've heard 40,000, 50,000, 70,000, all these different numbers that we were told. You have to go out to bid for that. You can't just spend that. So there's 220. Tonight's the first time I'm.
I don't
hearing
know. I mean,
220.
this is the California legislative, I mean, this is from the state. This is Article 3, Section 22.032. That raise out the limits. Unless the city has a procurement policy that creates lower limits than these are what reign. I have not come across a procurement policy of any kind in the city, so.
Okay. Well, at one point Jill was talking to us about limits. And they were much, much lower than that. They were well under 100,000. So I'm a little.
Well, the 75,000 is if you want to do a force account, which would be like the thing with Kernan, where you just pick somebody, you get a prize, you go do it.
Additional questions?
Where are we at with this?
We're just having, I think we're still just having our conversation.
Mhm.
You were involved, sorry, Enoch, you were involved in the process, correct? Did you have some information regarding?
Question of clarification, but
You can go ahead and just ask it. You're involved in the project.
yeah, I'm just curious about like process at this point, because there's a lot of questions that are being raised that seems like could be answered behind closed doors, or this process has been going on for a long time, and there's sort of questions and misunderstandings being raised at this moment, which is frustrating from like a attendee's point of view and somewhat baffling. If it's quite simple, if the purpose, and I appreciate the questions, but if the purpose of the questions is to say, we need to tear the thing down, then the city council needs to say, we need to tear this thing down. If the purpose of the question is say, how can we move forward? Then I think that many of these facts can be addressed otherwise, and then pragmatically move forward. So me sitting here 2.5 hours in, I'm just a bit frustrated and confused at the level of misunderstanding and ignorance at this point in the game. I don't understand that.
Yeah, go ahead, sit down. Thank you. What was that?
I just like to share that when you say behind closed doors, we can get our answers, we can't. We as a governing body have a great many rules that we have to operate under. And that's the one thing we absolutely can't do. So the only time all 5 of us can get the answers is together in this room.
It can be done.
Enoch, sorry, but Enoch, you can't. Sorry, but thank you. So
Anyway,
I'm going to
so-
respond to him as well.
I get
So
that.
Enoch, again, we tried to move this forward initially, right in the beginning, just said, okay, we're moving forward. We want to get this thing done. There's no reason to hamstring this. I reached out to city staff. I reached out to all people who were associated with it, said, hey, we're just trying to compile a story here. We knew we had probably a week or two to get people's stories before everyone kind of got together and came up with what happened. So even my city staff weren't coming forward with what actually happened. So we've been compiling all this information, tons of interviews, compiling financial documents over a year and a half. We could have been done with this long ago, but because everyone didn't want to have actual conversations about what actually happened because they're afraid they were going to get trouble, we have had to just, pull strings to get all that information. We're compiling it. We've been working on the bike report for a year and a half now. We want to get this thing done. We want to move on to stormwater. We want to move on to other things. Here's the thing I'm concerned about. I get that everyone wants to have this project done, but I'm not going to be personally responsible if there's a death or a paraplegic kid because the park wasn't designed right. That's my concern right now. That being said, I'm going to go ahead and bring it back to council for further discussion. Thanks. Yeah, go ahead. Or who had additional questions or comments or concerns?
I'd like to just tag on to what John just said. It's like we asked, we started asking questions over a year ago, 15 months ago, we started asking questions, and we're just now getting some of the answers. And if you think it's painful to sit out there and listen to us, I guarantee you it's a whole lot more painful to sit right here and to learn, to be teasing these details out one little stupid piece at a time over the course of 15 months of people lying to you, people withholding information, people just not willing to just come to the table and say, what happened? How do we build this? How do we put this picture back together when it's shattered, when it's absolutely shattered? And all the players are holding pieces and nobody wants to put them on the table. This puzzle is the biggest mess I've ever dealt with in my life. And I love puzzles. Throw a jigsaw on the table, I'm there for hours. This is no fun. There's no fun piece of this whole mess. Everybody wants something that's going to make us all feel good. It's supposed to unite the community. Why don't you just get on with it and make it happen? This has been the nastiest piece of work we've had to deal with. I got to go through a recall election largely because of this project and the lies that were told about this project and the character assassination that came with it.
When it was actually them who screwed it up.
Okay, so I get that it's frustrating. I get that nobody wants to sit there and listen to us talk about this for not one more stinking minute. I get it. I don't want to talk about it anymore.
Well, and
But we got to get it. We just got to get through it. So
That's what we're asking. What are your next steps? That's what today's.
we're trying to get there.
We're doing it right now.
One word at a time. We're trying to get there.
Go ahead, Terry.
Well, and I think it's important to just remember that within a public agency, we're also beholden to what the state of California has to say. When I took an oath of office, it was to the Constitution of the state and the Constitution to California. This violates so much of this, the way this was done. And so if I keep asking questions, I'm in the same boat that John is. Who's going to come if this isn't done right? If this is signed off easily, if it's not done right? If anything happens, the community will come to us and they will say, why did you do this? Why didn't you ask questions? Why didn't you find out more about this? So it is my responsibility as a council member to ask all of these questions. And there are ways you do a public works project. And frankly, an unlicensed contractor did this work. That is not lawful. And so I have many concerns about this. And everybody might want me to just move on, but there were a lot of issues and still misinformation coming out. And I want to make sure that if we need to bid on this, if we need to do things differently, that we do that correctly from here on out. And so I'll take Jenny's word for it that it's 225. But, I need to know that this is right. that everything about this park is right and done right, so that I know the kids in Blue Lake are safe when they use this park. I want to see them use the park, but there were a lot of mistakes that were made. And at any point, somebody could have stopped this and said, do it right, do it according to plan. And there were no plans, there were no designs, and they weren't followed. And that is a big issue for me. So that, yeah.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns?
Yeah, I guess I get comments. I'll jump into the fray.
Sure, go ahead.
Why not? In April of last year, this council directed and asked City Manager Mager to provide us with a comprehensive expenditure report on the bike park. That is normal request for council. That is something we ought to know and shouldn't even have to ask for. Simple questions like, how much has been spent so far? What has that been spent on? What are the volunteer hours? What has that been applied to? What needs to be done next? What is left to do? How much will it cost? And how is it going to be paid for? That is like at the heart and center of one of our responsibilities as council people. And, we're asking for accounting of remaining balances. We asked for estimates of all the remaining work, project completion dates, how much is spent, all of this. And at that same time, shortly after in April, we're told there's about $45,000 in donations, and it's about that in expenditures. And just really dismissed the fact that there are over $130,000 worth of unpaid invoices being intentionally withheld. That is a huge problem. Also, there are a lot of side deals going out there with people, with other businesses. That's a huge problem. And some of those businesses, they didn't know any better, but the city manager provided them with services or other materials at the city's expense, which is really at the public's expense. That is extremely problematic. So it is hard to just say, yeah, let's just go ahead and put a stamp on it and move on. I agree. I'm really concerned. The guy left his equipment here for how long? Does he show any hours? Does he show fuel receipts? Would we ever have paid to have this equipment parked? Not just for the 12-month period, but I think a 6-month period there prior to that. And, we see these conflicts between what RCMBA puts together as a proposed expenses, clearly showing his labor as part of it in a huge amount, only to show his bill is only for equipment that's sitting there aside on the month. We have from the city manager telling us that this is all by volunteer and donation. So we're led to believe in April of last year that we're about $45,000 in and about $45,000 out. So of course we're questioning why this guy a year later comes up with, I don't know, $115,000 worth of receipts. Yeah, and then there are others. There were like 3 other receipts, all at the same time that this council is being told by that city manager that wasn't there. So the letter that's provided from Mandy Mager is a great attempt to try to control the narrative again. And really it's a save my bacon kind of letter. And it's a real shame. She's got a lot of strong qualities. She can make stuff happen. But whether she plays by the rules or not is a whole nother matter. And when you go that far outside of the rules, here we are, and here you guys are, and there are the kids, and we're all in this conundrum. So I have to address some of the points in this letter because they're absolute bunk. To say in that second paragraph, the process that was followed, there was no process to this. It didn't follow fiscal policy. It didn't even follow like standards within construction that one would expect. It abandoned any idea of following plans and let some guy that we don't know whether he was volunteering his time or is going to bill us over a year later to just do as he pleased. When was the public brought into this process? They weren't. The council was cut out. Well, they're telling us that they all knew about these changes, but never in front of the public. So that looks like a Brown Act violation to me. I'm not going to chase that down. But the public wasn't part of the changes out there. They never got an opportunity to say, we want it, we don't want it, we want it like this, we want to pay for it. And most importantly, with our general fund, it is so small that when you take that money and put it into one thing, you are absolutely pulling it out of the bucket of another. And when we're looking at infrastructure failures, we're looking at flooding 3 years in a row. That's where I think a lot of that money needs to go. And whether by magic, I mean, this donation, a phenomenal amount of donation, at the same time that we really don't have a sound policy on what do we do when we get windfall donations like that? Are we just going to conveniently, is it going to become the story that all along he's supposed to be paid and all along this work was done? And so now that $150,000 or $200,000 just goes to Dana Creek and magically those bills go away. I need more information before that could happen. And this idea that she's telling us here, as you know, there is no design or engineering standards for a bike park. Well, that's not what she tells us in April. She tells us it has been engineered and signed off. That bike park out there, her words. That's what we're fighting against and trying to figure out. It really undermines the credibility of anything that happened out there. And it also makes me concerned for SHN to continue to stick their neck out on this. I would say I'd want to get a lot of distance on this, and I mean, there's value in what you saw out there, and not just that you saw it, but you saw it through the eyes of an engineer. So there's real value in that. But I think a safer place is to have a third party come in. They'll talk to you. They'll look at pictures. They can figure stuff out. But I think there's already been enough friction from community members towards SHN that, as kind as it is and valuable that you would donate your time for that, I'd step away from that landmine. We're told right here, as funds become available, the park would continue to grow. That didn't happen. It grew and grew and grew without any funds available. That's why we're in the hole that we're in. I mean, nothing in this letter is really truthful. It is a spin. I'm really disappointed to see it. I guess I'm not surprised at this point. It was discovered that it was the wrong grade at the site. And so it would have to be substantially graded. Okay, well, yeah, maybe it wasn't quite at the gradient, which was a high end, which was the low end. We flip it around. But what is out there was definitely substantially graded. So you can't say that, oh, we had to do it so that we had to do the very thing that we said we couldn't do. It makes no sense. You made the call to authorize the change, minimizing that concept of taking a plan that was approved by the Planning Commission, that of course it could be some design build elements. You expect that in the field. It is nothing like what was approved. It was nothing that we were expecting. It is nowhere near the budget of what we thought we would have gotten into, even if you had spitballed it. It is so far out of the ballpark. That's why there's so much pressure here. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars going into what is out there now. So if it seems like we're dragging our feet, it's not intentional. It's trying to unravel this. And it doesn't help when the community is provided with misinformation like this, telling us, as you know, there are no engineering standards. Well, then why a year ago did you tell us that it was not only engineered, it was signed off on? So, taking the win, there is not a win here. There will be a bike park, and we will get us there. We will get you guys there. But the steps that we go, there's still a little more to be found out. We have all been so misled on this. It's very frustrating. Said enough. I do have a couple of comments for y'all to think about. If, it'd be nice to have members of that bike park ad hoc present when staff and RCMBA are discussing this. It would be wonderful to have copies of plans for what is the future of this, because we're talking about these other features that aren't there that, would be put in. Well, we don't know what that looks like, or if it's in that, I couldn't tell on my phone because I didn't have a hard copy. I think that is worth consideration on how that Brunson money should or shouldn't be spent, and just with like general objective criteria. I don't think we need to see, how can we make it fit for this particular one, but just trying to find what is the right thing to do when you get that type of a windfall, which is huge for a small town like this. What is the right thing to do with that? Do we try to preserve it and do matching funds? we just try to fill the little holes that we have that we finally want to get to. I think it takes a little more thought. I'm frustrated, clearly. And, I want to do the best job that I can for the community. And I know a lot of times what I say isn't what some community members want to hear, but I'm going to speak the truth as I see it.
Thank you. Any further conversations around this?
My last comment is just, I would like more information about what makes a public works project. And, at what point when public money is spent, because there seems to be kind of this gray area, as Kat talked about, where we're saying if labor wasn't involved and we're just paying for materials, then that somehow changes it. It seems to me that like on any of this kind of project, if any public works dollars are spent on it, then the whole thing of a public works project should be adhered to. And I just want to make sure that we're going to do that moving forward, and that we're going to make sure we follow all the right ways to do this moving forward.
Yeah, I think today what we really need to decide is if we're gonna cap this project, cap off this year, or we're gonna wait. So I think, I totally understand what you're saying. I think that should be part of the motion, or part of the direction is moving forward, we're gonna be following proper protocols and procedures. I guess our question tonight will be, do we want to cap it off with the Brunson funds, or how we would do that? Go ahead.
I actually want to ask Mike a question.
Sure.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for coming up. Yeah, it's an easy one. I know last time I kind of lost it a bit. If those areas that need to be asphalted before winter, if they were done, would that really have any major effect on if it was a third-party engineer coming out and doing an assessment? I mean, do they need to take any core samples for compaction or?
If they wanted to, you could take core samples maybe from the outside, so you're not poking holes in the asphalt, right? I mean, ideally asphalt's like a system. Every time you poke holes in the asphalt, you're weakening the system.
Yeah.
Why can't we have SHN go out and do some nuclear gauge testing for compaction? I mean, that'd be pretty simple on the open spots.
Yeah, before they pave.
Yeah.
Probably get some of the material actually from that, because that area's got to be reworked anyway and recompacted, the open areas that's been sitting, especially the bowl pieces. But yeah, it could potentially get information on that because it was followed the same standards. So it'd be, say, a sampling of how that material is placed.
I just want to second what Mike said. I mean, I looked at all of the pictures and all of the videos, and I've been, doing construction for 30 years. And when I watched how they placed the material and they wetted it, and it's in all the pictures, it's consistently, that's how they're doing it. And they have videos where they're literally running the compactor up and down the thing. And as materials compact, you can see these little lines that go between them. Eventually they disappear. And that means you've gotten to 90 to 95%. And you can see that in the video. And so it's really helpful to have received those for me to be comfortable that what I've seen as appropriate ways for contractors to do construction, they followed, even though Dean is very clear, he is not a licensed contractor, and he never pretended to be.
And you're not having roads. So that a lot of, when you go back to compaction, you're dealing with foundations, you're dealing with pipelines, you're dealing with things that could be like, if you don't get the right bedding and the right compaction, your public works infrastructure fails.
Truck, we were talking about a person.
Yeah, truckloads, H20 truckloads. And again, empirically looking at that, it's been 2 years and you haven't seen any settle. And that, in fact, that's typically what like Caltrans will do, even to preload. Sometimes they'll leave a lot of dirt on a site to help compact the soils. That whole area is all river. So like we didn't even really have, in terms of subgrade and all that, you're okay. In terms of like, it's not even settling. You could see when they dug there's a couple drainage features they dug out and it's all river. That used to be a log pond, and that's how they filled it in. Because we do have, like, we've done work out there, related to the former McNamara Peak got a Brownsfield and we did some work out there. And it's former log bonds, mostly river run.
And I just wanted the public to know, we've been asking for these materials from Dana for over a year and a half and just got these 3 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. So now we're finally able to begin progressing forward on this project. Continue, Mike, apologies.
No, it's fine. And I think in terms of some of the safety issues is the concept would you, and you see that at the bike park up at Crescent City, they kind of have red paint demarking the exterior of it. But the concept here would be kind of like you think of like anyone that skis where you have like the black diamonds, blue squares or the red circles. So it'll be, I can't do black for black. But you do like red or a different color. But I think that's part of the concept too, is like we're gonna paint lines to show like, okay, here's your level that you should be riding on the park to help understand instead of chaos. So I mean, for phase one, I'm only talking about phase one. I'm not designing I have nothing to, this is just how to close this out.
Just a picture of what Mike's talking about. I took a picture when I was up there watching the kids ride this park so I could get a feel for how these work. And it was one of the things I talked to Dana about when we met with him was the idea of doing an outside edge like this that had different colors like blue and yellow and red. In part so that the kids don't end up wandering into each other's lane.
Kind of have lines of this is honor.
Yeah, right of ways.
Yeah, to limit chaos.
So in order for us to keep moving forward on this, do you mind if we pass 3 different motions?
Yeah, you can do it.
Is that okay? So is the council willing to move forward on capping the bike park using the funds from the Brunson estate?
By capping, you mean?
You mean
By
asphalting?
asphalting, yes. Yeah.
With, was it 15,000?
Was it 15,000?
2,000 is what I would like to set aside for that.
Is the council willing to entertain a motion or discussion on this further?
So, super quick question. To winterize, I think we spent somewhere in the neighborhood of $3,000 to $5,000 last year.
Yeah.
$2,600 donation.
So part of what we talk, best management practices and winterizes, we still lay out the straw wattles. We have to tarp the unpaved area. So that's all been volunteer labor. We did stack the sandbags and all that, this is just in case, but there's expenses regardless the city spends. And some, I think Public Works deployed the wattles last year.
Yeah, there was an invoice form that we paid.
Yeah, so there's some staff time that has been, the bulk of the winterization has been done by volunteer labor, but there's still some expenses the city incurred buying sandbags and buying wattles. And I can't attest to that dollar.
Hydro seed costs money, but anyways.
Hydro seed was donated.
Yes, but all those things cost money. So the point I was going towards was that we could spend money on asphalt. And then we don't have to spend money on the other stuff.
Exactly.
And that's our permanent.
And then we could have volunteers clear the creek instead of sandbag.
Mhm.
The same group of people.
Does anyone wish to ask any additional questions?
So that's the first motion?
We don't have a motion. Somebody needs to make a motion, but it's the first thing we're focusing on because I think if we
one at a time.
modularize it, it will move it forward better.
I would make a motion of to use the Brunson donation up to 15,000. With the understanding that we're reserving the bulk of those funds in case we need matching for a grant.
I'm all in favor of that. Yeah.
Is that your motion?
That's my motion.
Motion made by Scafani. Do we have a second and or friendly amendment?
I wouldn't even put the thing about the matching funds because we will have a separate conversation
Right.
about what to do with that.
I would
donation.
simplify it back down to authorizing the fund or authorizing the Brunson funds
That's fine.
to pay.
I'll
for
take that off.
the
I just want to
asphalt.
acknowledge that we've talked about reserving those funds, not just spending them down.
No,
Yeah, reserving them for a matching fund, when we find it, when we find a grant that requires a match, that's gonna help us really, really finish the park.
So can we get a clear motion? So just make the motion one more time.
Authorizing $15,000 for asphalt.
From the Brunson fund.
From the Brunson Fund.
Motion,
Pavement Park.
motion made by Scafani. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Louis Luso. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Oh, opposed.
Okay.
All right, the next question. Do we feel comfortable having our city engineer be the engineer who potentially puts the stamp on this project? Jenny, how much would it cost to have a second opinion, even if Mike put the stamp on it?
I don't even know if I can find somebody to do that.
Okay.
I mean,
These are all outside of,
few engineers in this community that don't work at SHN. I mean, if we're fine with it being another SHN person, fine, but I'm not interested in trying to do it with GHD, that's for sure. If Raj White or somebody was willing to do it on like a one-time thing, I don't mind reaching out to him. I do think that it would be valuable to, as part, if we're gonna have Mike do that, authorize his firm to do the compaction testing in conjunction with that.
In conjunction with.
With him reviewing the as-built drawings and putting his stamp on something. I think that is additional information that is useful.
Well, I really like what Kat had to say about Mike and the liability of all this and the separation factor. So how do you feel about that?
I'm actually dealing with a lot of risk management, so I take this very seriously. I don't take risk lightly. Engineers are a risky person, actually, by nature. Jenny can attest to that.
would you mind, Mike, would you mind coming up
Oh,
here?
yeah,
Mike,
yeah,
sorry,
sorry.
so we get on audio.
No, I mean, I look at risk seriously. It's my stamp's my livelihood, so I don't use it frivolously. And again, it's the practice act, what you feel comfortable or what's within your expertise or experience. So, and again, that's why I think I shared with John, it's like, the only reason I'm stepping forward to help with that is to see that the city is stuck. We're stuck with this thing. How do we get it unstuck? And it's just for phase one. I agree. If you guys get grant funding, get a designer in here and let them sort out how this thing should tie in and flow. I think that's a great idea. We'd have grant funds with matching, and that'd be wonderful. I think that's really the direction we have to go, but we have this thing sitting here with a fence that keeps coming down. People keep going in there. They keep people are riding that dirt part that's degrading that. However you view that, it's still something that's been built and it's being damaged. Or the longer it sits, it's just, weeds are growing, it's not being used. So it's deteriorating if it's not in use. So just trying to figure out and it's your decision. However you decide, you decide. I'm good either way.
Would you like to have a second engineer work with you on that?
I have no problem. Like I said, it's whichever way you guys decide. I'm offering that I can go through. I will still do my due diligence. I'm not just gonna. There's things I need to look at.
Right.
Or two, stamping it because I'm putting my license at risk.
Okay.
So.
Oh, I would make a motion to authorize SHN to do some compaction samples and for Mike to go ahead and do the engineering with the caveat that if you'd like a second engineer on that, I don't.
Yeah, that's why I see you're getting it.
If I stick my neck out with somebody next to me.
Yeah.
I
mean, I'll definitely talk to some people in terms of the jumps and whatnot. So once I get designs and I do cross sections, I haven't even seen the points. I mean, I know what it looks like, but to actually look at the dimensions, I can comment.
I got a formal letter from another engineer or something like that I've reviewed these and I agree with Mike's findings.
You guys can decide whatever you want.
Does that work?
Yeah, city staff can try to.
And that'll cost resources for someone to come in. I mean, I'm just saying that's part of this.
What it costs roughly.
If I can even find somebody, I don't know. I'm not promising this is a thing that can be done.
I mean, I don't think we're being ridiculous and just making sure we have
I know,
two
but
opinions
I
on it.
don't know what it would cost, and I don't know if I can find somebody who will do what you're asking.
Okay. Go ahead.
I'm assuming you've engineered no bike parks in the past, but clearly you've engineered many things. That said, do you
Yeah,
have?
trails, I build trails, and I build, yeah.
So could you give us a sense of what you look for or what it is compared to, or is it what SIRA is requiring? Is it like you can't have a distance more than, in number of feet between berms that are X high, or is it just you pretty much are documenting literally what is there and then say that's.
I mean, it is an as-built drawing, I am documenting what's there, but also, I will be doing some due diligence, just to confirm some things. Again, I have to see the dimensions and look at those cross sections, and then from there, I'll have a better understanding of what questions do I need to ask. If that makes sense, I hope I'm not trying to be obtuse, I'm trying to.
Yeah.
But in terms of like how it was compacted, I feel comfortable about that. I looked at the drainage, so it is now back to the dimensions.
So we did have a motion on the floor, and I'm not trying, were you done?
It was a messy
A
motion.
messy motion. Do we wish to entertain another motion? We've had some ideas, we've had some discussion.
I would move that we authorize SHN to do some compaction sampling and for Mike to move forward on the engineering.
And placing his stamp.
Yes.
Well,
upon his.
he has to do an
upon
assessment.
his-
He's not gonna. No.
We're gonna have another meeting in 2 weeks, so if you learn something in the next 2 weeks, that means that you need to come back and ask us for something else.
We have a motion, I'm sorry. We have a motion made by Scafani. Do we have a second to that motion?
So the motion about rubber stamp.
That.
We have a motion made by Scafani. Do we have a second?
I will second that minus the rubber stamp comment.
Okay. We have a second by Louis Luso. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Okay. So the motion passed 3-2. Let's see.
The other thing.
Was there another-
There were a couple of other things.
About the grant. We need grant application. All we're asking for is approval to spend $500 and to complete these 6 community outreaches, at which time, once we have all the stuff together to do the application, it'll come back to county. September 13th is a Sunday and the Enduro is the day before, so if you want to change your date. I thought the Enduro was on Sunday. It's on Saturday. Okay. And other than that, I would move that, to authorize that.
I would second that. I really appreciate the work that you're doing. I would love to look at some of the questions that you're asking the community. I didn't go down there. Appreciate that.
You're gonna scan it all, you're happy. Read it all.
Oh, yeah. There's a motion and a second.
So we have a motion?
And a second.
Oh, and a second?
Yeah.
Sorry. Can we hear the
Can we hear the
motion?
motion one more time?
Oh, go ahead, Elise.
Authorize, $500 for tabling events that are outlined in the proposed community input sessions on page 40.
We have a motion made by Scafani. Do we have a second? Ms. Louis Luso?
Is that from the bike park fund, I assume?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Motion made by Scafani, seconded by.
Second. Oh, second, third.
Who is the second? Seconded by Louis Luso. It's getting late, guys. I apologize. All those in favor of spending $500 for the outreach, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
All right. I just wanted to read something really quick. This is to Mandy. Dear Mandy, while I appreciate your letter, it unfortunately misses some critical points that we really need to address. For starters, the necessary financial disclosures were never made to the council. In fact, they were withheld. There's the issue of the authority to make. You made decisions beyond your capacity and then shifted blame to others when things went wrong. It's hard to ignore blatant disregard for established protocols and procedures throughout this process. Instead of taking responsibility, you've shifted blame to others and caused division in the community. If we supposedly lack funds for grading, it raises the question of why so many undocumented costs were incurred. Our team has spent extensive time interviewing, gathering documents, taking statements, because the stories provided simply didn't align, which stalled the project. The lack of contracts put everyone involved in difficult and vulnerable positions. Ultimately, the delays happened because information wasn't shared when requested, yet now it's being framed as if you were not the center of this project. It's like they say, once a lie starts, it keeps growing, or what a tangled web of lives web we weave when we practice to deceive. I truly hope that there is something you can learn from and grow from moving forward, turning neighbor against neighbor and friend against friend over a massive failed project. I look forward to a formal apology to the city and the community. Thank you. Moving on to item number 14.
Thank you.
Jenny Short, can you fill us in on the carbon reduction program?
Yes. So in May of 2025, the city applied to the Humboldt County Association of Governments for funding to purchase maintenance vehicles. And it was through the carbon reduction program. The application was originally for $50,527 in CRP funds, and the city was supposed to match $9,138. Since then, we requested that they allow us to use full credits for our match instead of it having to come out of the city coffers. And that was approved just a couple of months ago by the CTC when they adopted the new step. In April, the local assistance engineer reached out to me and started giving me a list of the forms and stuff that they needed. Those have all been filled out, and we finally got approval last week to move forward with actually procurement. So the funds have been released and we're ready to move forward. I have been in contact with the company over in Reading that we got the original estimate from for the application. And they are providing an updated one because of course those were like model 2024 and now we're in 2026. But all the action that I'm asking from you guys is to authorize me to execute whatever documents are necessary with the funding agency for acceptance, and then also to process the reimbursements with them, and then authorize me to purchase the vehicles once we get the quotes back. And interestingly enough, on a side note, unrelated, kind of related to this, we are in a group of cities that DKS is doing a zero emissions fleet transition and infrastructure plan for. And I just got the task 2 draft memorandum where they laid out on page 67 what the city of Blue Lakes was going to be. And they are recommending that the installation include 2 charging stations down at the courtyard. And so those will be installed so that these vehicles could be charged through a efficient version of a charging station.
The only one we got is here.
It's here at City Hall, yeah. So they want to do 1 single and 1 duplex, one down there. Right, it's a single.
And they're recommending this.
It's the way that these, my question is, okay, well, so we get these electric vehicles, how are we gonna charge these things?
Yeah.
And that's the answer, is they've got this, HCOG has this other thing going on with DKS where they're getting the money to be able to do the installations of the charging stations too.
But they're gonna be strictly in a courtyard for little.
They're just for the city to use.
Just for the vehicles.
Yeah, the one at City Hall, you have to put a credit card into, and it charges you.
Okay.
Yeah. These will be more like, you know, at home, you just plug it in and it charges it.
Okay. Okay. I move that we authorize city manager to execute documents related to funding acceptance and processing requests, and also authorize city manager to purchase.
I would second that.
We need to open public comment.
Okay.
Public with the comment on this item?
We still do that. We still make
Yeah, I
a
know.
motion.
Bravo, we like free stuff rather than unfunded mandate coming from the state. This is an exception. Don't get lead to it.
Next time, can we just lead with that?
Things that people wanted to be reform first.
No.
Nobody cares about elections.
Any further public comment on this item?
No.
Julie, go ahead.
Thanks, Rebecca.
Yeah, I hope Zoom's not a burden, but I'm sure the people that get it appreciate not having to sit in there. Kent, you're a trooper. You know, as far as accepting this, great, you guys. I mean, we got a charger at the city hall. The casino should be picking up the slack on this one. Are we just gonna keep adding these charging units when our infrastructure for our power grid is absolutely unsustainable for the county? And HCOG, are we gonna start joining those meetings and realizing that their whole board isn't about just transportation? It's about infrastructure and roads too. So thank you for Zoom. Yeah, we're gonna keep it going. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we had a motion by Scafani, right? Yep. Second by Louis Lusso. All those in favor, say aye.
I,
Opposed? Hearing none. All right. Any other item? What do you got? I lost my paper. Correspondence. We've already heard about that.
Item, then the page.
Council, future agenda items. Do we have any future agenda items?
Yes.
Okay.
City manager evaluation
Okay.
due by Friday.
What?
Okay.
She gave me one at the last meeting.
Yes, you did. Was it?
Do we have that on the agenda for the next meeting?
So that's my question. That's one of the things Ryan and I talked about today was how to agendize that and whether he should be present and when you want to do it. And I told him I thought it might be in September, but I wasn't sure if we were having 1 or 2 meetings in September or whether you'd be ready by the 25th. So if you're ready by the 25th, we can put it on there.
Well, I guess I won't know that because I don't have anything.
Tentatively do it. And then if it doesn't come together, we can punt it to the next one.
Okay.
Did you handed us a paper?
Yeah. It's like 5 pages. Yeah.
Did you?
What?
Did you?
But it was in the packet.
Well, I saw
Like it?
somebody put it on a color printer and it looked prettier on a color printer.
Well, yeah.
You can pick one up at City Hall if you need to.
Okay.
If you need another copy of your city manager evaluation, come from the city hall.
Just go ahead and make like 3 or 4 copies then.
Any other future agenda items?
I think there was something else too.
And there was something, what was it?
Yeah, I'd like to discuss the MOU with RCMBA.
Okay.
The what?
The MOU with RCMBA.
So it's kind of unknown at the moment as to whether or not the public hearing is going to need to be held for the housing element on the 25th. I have sent an email to HCD's. They don't call themselves the enforcement division. I can't remember what they're called. They are the enforcement division and asked them to allow it to postpone it because when we did the technical assistance participation last week, they said that you can't have a public hearing unless your document's complete, and ours is still missing the AFFH because they haven't supplied the data. And so we're waiting on them, and I haven't yet gotten a response, but I'm anticipating they're gonna say that that's fine, and so then we can postpone the hearing, but if not, we'll have to do some form of the hearing and maybe a second.
Do we need to
Sounds
do
good.
2 hearings anyway, or?
No,
just
we do
one?
not, but I would rather not, for the sake of just doing a hearing, I'd rather not give the middle finger to HCD over the MOU. We're to have a public hearing and we can have another one.
With future agenda? Oh, Michelle just brought it. Why don't you just? I'll read it for her. Michelle would like to look at a fee waiver policy,
From
expanded framework.
council member.
Sure.
Future agenda items for last
Yeah.
meeting for this upcoming.
Thank you.
Just wanted to confirm.
Yes.
Confirm.
Good work. Yeah.
Thank you, Claude.
Anything else?
What else do you have?
I have a list, but it is not with me. They're just regular things, not.
So you'll bring it forward to our attention in a timely manner and then we can bring it forward at the next meeting.
Agendas that you get.
Are we ready to adjourn?
So the city manager eval, are we also doing the city clerk eval at the same time?
I can only do one right. Yeah. No.
Samantha hasn't been here as long.
Yeah, she can,
What's today?
congratulations.
Happy 6 months.
My appointment office is 6 months.
Oh, congratulations. We will get to you later.
I wonder, should she come in tomorrow or?
Doing 2 meetings in September.
Well,
We just need a time or two.
city manager evaluation.
Yeah.
Was that in?
We're almost done and we can get out of here
No,
It was in the packet.
as long as you don't have the bike
Yeah.
park on there.
Make sure we put it.
We're done with the bike
Because it's
for a while.
on the road.
Yeah, no, it was in the back.
Well, okay, so that is one thing that'll be on the next agenda is Emily and I talked today and she found and sent to me another grant opportunity that does require a match and it probably has a resolution that needs to be adopted and it is due on August 28th. So if we can get all that stuff together, it will be on the next agenda to authorize us to apply and adopt the resolution.
Julie, you have a future agenda item?
I want to concur with Kat's agenda item that we would be going back to the fee waivers. FYI, I said I would help out with the summer spring fling, getting donations. That is going to be September 16th, which is the Chambers and Humboldt Maid coming in. Definitely working on that for our community. But I'm still also going to be daunting on the creek restoration and having an update or a presentation by CDFW that the clock's ticking, you guys. I know it's late. I'm camping in my trailer next to a cow field tonight. You guys got it. I got faith in you, homies.
Thanks. Any further public comment on future agenda items? All right, meeting's adjourned.